Right, on to Street Talk this week then. This is, as I say, a controversial bunch of episodes to talk about, and not everyone's going to agree with us. But I'm just going to tell you what I thought about this week's Coronation Street. I am looking forward to having a good old ching-mag about it. But before we do, Gemma, clickbait time, and this week you're going to be giving me a bit of a quiz on this, aren't you? Testing out my knowledge of what's been going on in the world of Corrie tabloid headline. What have we got?
Fodder. Thank you, Jonathan, for sending them through.
Thank you, as always, yes.
Coronation Street legend.
Where is this from?
I'm just going to get to it after I finish reading it. Coronation Street legend to return 22 years after debut as Kirk's new love interest. And this is from the Leicester Mercury.
Oh, how many years?
22 years.
22 years since its debut. Since their debut.
Yes.
Yeah. So what, they came into the show in 2003? Oh, gosh, I don't know. What could a reason for this even be?
Well, there isn't a reason. None of this makes any sense at all. It's just people on Facebook being bored, isn't it? Going, whoa, why doesn't this happen?
Names are flashing in my head, but they're just all dead characters. I don't know, who is it?
Kirk's new love interest.
Yeah, go on, who is it?
Scylla.
Scylla?
Of course.
What, Scylla Battersby Brown?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't think I want to see that. That
would be weird though, wouldn't it? Because
she was kind of
a stepmom.
Yeah, kind of.
I know we're already having that in Classic at the moment. Maybe somebody was excited because we
all
love
what's
it.
The reason
don't we?
For that? Yeah. Well, Wendy Peters she's doing a panto again this year.
Queen.
She's doing Derby pantomime this year, so sadly won't have time to return to Coronation
I
Street.
wonder. You must make quite a bit of money doing pantos. I wonder whether you just can make enough money to just be comfortable.
What, for the year?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Wow.
Oh well, I think I would like to see Scylla back on the street again. I just want them to rectify the mistake that they made with her character when she was in it last, when she came back very, very boring.
Is it a mistake, or is it just something you didn't like?
It's something I didn't like, to be fair. But okay, and I don't think that's going to happen. But okay, what else we got?
Coronation Street fans double take as Cobble's legend returns 14 years after soap exit from Belfast Live.
Oh, I don't know what this is. So somebody left the show 14 years ago.
Yeah.
When was that? 2011. And
they've returned.
Okay, and then somebody looks
and
like
everyone went,
them
what?
This week.
What?
Ah.
Now, I pointed this out to you, so I'm offended you don't.
Did you really?
I'm offended
you
that
said
you
that
don't
looks
remember.
like somebody.
I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. Was that...
I vaguely remember that happening, but I got no clue. What was the scene? Can you just give me a bit of a clue?
I think they were in the Ginnel. Coming through.
Oh, was this the person that Lauren thought was Joel?
No.
Oh, I don't know. Go
it
on,
was a lady.
Me. Yeah.
Who had glasses.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, if we were watching Coronation Street in the 70s, everyone probably would have said that she looked like Deirdre. Because Deirdre looked like this character.
Claire Peacock?
Yes. Deirdre looked just like Claire when she was younger.
I don't remember that. So somebody came through the Ginnel looking like Claire Peacock.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, it's Claire Peacock.
I know you don't
listen to me.
I don't listen to you, no.
No.
Next. I'm doing terribly.
ITV Coronation Street DD's new plan uncovered. And James will be devastated. Also from Belfast Live.
New plan uncovered. Isn't she just going to steal the baby and take it for herself? Is it something along those lines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take custody of Layla.
Yeah. I still do wonder whether she will at the end of it. Is this where this story is leading? Because I don't think we've seen this story at all this week, have we?
Yeah. There's quite a few stories actually on Corrie where I'm struggling because I feel like the foregone conclusion is kind of toxic. With Carl and Abby, and also with Boren and Todd, yeah, and with this story, it's like, well, not toxic, but just like, oh, you had a chance to do something really quite interesting and different, and you just.
I just feel really bad for James if that's the case, but he's fairly disposable character still, isn't he? So he could just go off and then Dee Dee's the mum, and I
really
want
difficult.
her to stick to her convictions.
It's really difficult because Anyway,
okay.
I think it's a great story. I just feel uncomfortable with. I think both, but the thing is, both endings for this story are gonna be uncomfortable in some way, aren't they?
Unless they can somehow find a way where brother and sister can co-parent this child.
What's this?
Takes all sorts, doesn't it?
Alabama. Right, Coronation Street fans spot new love story incoming, and it's bad news for Nina from the Manchester Evening News.
Oh.
This is another example of two people look at each other
Well,
or talk to each other.
Bad news for Nina. So was this Asher and somebody? And
Well, yeah, because
Lauren?
Yes.
Yeah, because wasn't that mentioned on Monday's episode? Somebody said to Asher, "Oh, do you fancy Lauren?" Or I think I can't remember.
Right.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's
That's
the end
our
of it.
clickbait for this week. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's crack on with this week's Corrie then. And we've got a massive story that's kind of sucking in various characters from all over the place. So that's going to take the lion's share of it. I really wanted to call this story "I Know What You Did Summer" because you made a little graphic for that, didn't you? And the story does... I don't know if I've seen this film, but you said that the mystery of somebody...
It literally is the same. I was like, oh my God. 'Cause I only just watched it. I think I watched it last Halloween, didn't I?
Right.
For
So
my
characters
Halloween.
get up to something nefarious.
And they're like, we can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But what happened? We don't know.
But it wasn't actually Summer that did it in the end. It was Nina. So I've called it "I Know What You Did with Summer," so we can still pay homage to it somewhat. Then apart from that, we just got a bit of the Dementia story. We had a little bit more of the Steve and Cassie, the Sassy Cassie, Steve's new lassie, which is still a terrible storyline title, and a bit of the trouble up Mill with Millie getting up to mischief on Friday. But yeah, really, this is going to be an awful lot of the Ardy party and what do you want to kind of give some
I think
a general
trouble up to Duff is also quite funny, but I get Mill is Millie.
What's your overall feelings about how this party story went down? Did you anticipate? How did it live up to your expectations? Because I tried to avoid spoilers as always, so I knew some bits about it. I realised it was going to be a big episode. They put a little trailer out for it, which I didn't see. So how did you leave the episode feeling?
Well, sometimes when you go on Twitter, it's a bit like that clip from SNL, is it? Where that guy comes into the party with pizza, all happy and everything's on fire.
Yeah.
That's how I feel sometimes. So, before the episode, I was on Twitter and I saw that clip of Summer going, and they, or something, and then they did this, and then they did that.
Oh, it wasn't it like her going, and on, and the camera's like zooming out and time was passing.
It was very cringe in isolation and also in situ, I'm going to say. That was cringe. But Summer's cringe, so I totally thought it was funny how cringe it was, and I think it was supposed to be cringe because Summer's cringe.
It was another kind of Kate Brooks playing with time device, wasn't it, I suppose?
I didn't mind it, but everyone hated it, didn't they?
I didn't mind it too much, to be honest. And there's, as I said many times before, there's no choosing, no knowing or guessing when I'm going to enjoy or not enjoy any particular narrative device on Coronation Street, and that one just didn't particularly bother me.
There's literally no, there's no predicting. Like, we're so flip-floppy, aren't we?
Mm.
And I often will feel bad when I don't go along with the consensus. Like, with this party, I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. And so lots of people whose opinions I really respect thought it was crap. And so I'm like, am I just really, have I got no taste? Am I like a terrible person for thinking this? Like, am I tacky? Because I enjoyed it.
I also really enjoyed it. And I think it mostly comes down to A, the main characters that are involved, and B, the fact that I went into it quite wary, thinking, oh, this is going to be another youth storyline. Yeah, I knew it was going to involve drugs. I was like, oh, no, that's not, I don't really enjoy that on Coronation Street. But the fact that I didn't end up hating the episode, I think that helped bolster my enjoyment of it.
There's so much in that expectations being met or exceeded.
Yeah.
Or dashed.
So just go into every episode expecting
to
to be disappointed, and you never know.
I think quite a lot of people do that and they still don't like it.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So as I say, the characters that were involved, there was this group of teens which were in the forefront of the show around 2021 kind of time, around when the Seb and Nina attack happened.
Yes.
So you had Amy, you had Ardy, you had
Asher.
You had Nina. They were kind of the main four, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I really love all of those characters, but also feel they don't often get that much screen time. And Summer, we went through, what was it, 22? Yeah, 2022, was it, when she just was in it constantly and collapsing all over the place all year? And I was so sick of Summer, but I really thought it was quite refreshing having her at the forefront this week. And she wasn't collapsing. Other people were, but she wasn't. And she was fun. And yes, I totally get people's criticism of the fact that the retconning of, oh yeah, I took hallucinogenics in America, that doesn't really hold much water for the character. But again, because I was caught up in enjoying the episode, it weirdly didn't bother me. I've really enjoyed Summer all week. And Harriet Bibby, from what I've seen of her in real life and in interviews and what have you, is a lot of fun. And we got
Summer
to see...
seems more fun now.
She seems fun,
now she's done drugs.
yet still very square and nerdy.
She's
and
totally a vicar's daughter.
Yeah, the stuff that she was saying on Monday's
After
episode about Last of the Summer Wine. And
like,
what was
brilliant.
the other thing that she...
I can't remember.
Oh, no, she mentioned Midsummer, didn't she? Which,
yeah.
strangely, some of the
Does
other
she
kids
only
there hadn't seen.
watch things with her name in it?
Yeah, maybe. But she was still a total nerd, just with a bit of an edge to her, and I think I quite like that. Asher's clearly very nerdy, and having her throughout the episode saying, look,
very responsible.
Yes, responsible is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
And she stuck with it through the whole episode. Then you had Nina, it was just kind of fun and Nina-ish, and still a bit alternative, I suppose. And then you had Ardy, I love Ardy. And
they're all dorks. That's what I love about them. They're all a bunch of dorks.
They're dorks, but they're not...
And nerds.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I think also this country, we love our dorky, nerdy teens, because I think a lot of us older people are kind of scared of teenagers because we don't understand them anymore, and most of our contact, unless we have a teen in our family, is of them standing around being menacing. So when, like, stuff like the In-Betweeners and all that kind of, with teens in it, they're always a bit nerdy and kind of trying new stuff and experiencing life, and it's fun to watch them.
I prefer watching that than the current crop of teens that we have, which are all
criminals.
One silly mistake away from going into the STC
again,
hanging around in the precinct looking dodgy, and I don't really like that.
Crime. Drugs.
Yeah, just got these issues teens.
Yeah.
But these, they're not teens anymore, are they? How old are they? 22, 23 odd? I still kind of think of them as the teens, but they're definitely well out of that
I saw
now.
you when you were born.
And yeah, they're not cool. They're not sexy. They're not...
Yeah, they just look like normal people.
Yeah, and I really, really like about them. So
obviously, they're all devastatingly attractive.
Well, yeah, but, they're not...
They're not, like, done, and they're not, like, they're not...
It's not all about... They're not done up. It's not all about their looks.
They're not like Love Island teens.
No, yeah, you're right. That's a really good way of putting it. They're not. They seem very normal, respectable people. Not like that Brody.
Brody could be in Love Island, could he? I don't know. I've never seen it.
Even though those gang were in it as well. So we did have Brody. He had a little bit of Dylan. Lauren obviously was caught up in it as well. That didn't bother me because I still got my core cast of the twins, Nina and Summer, which I really, really loved. I thought that the twist at the end of Monday's episode was brilliant when Nina and Summer come into the cafe, because honestly, I was waiting for something a little bit more devastating to happen during the episode. I was kind of on edge, thinking, oh, is somebody going to drop dead at any moment here? And when they didn't, I was like, oh, maybe the episode seems to be ending soon, and nothing absolutely massive has happened. But then you get that scene at the end where they come into the cafe going, oh, what have we done? That really had me hooked in for what was then going to appear later in the week. Sadly, I would say that my excitement and enjoyment of it dissipated as the week went on, and it turned out that I don't know what I was expecting it to be, but Wednesday and Friday's episode, the aftermath, in no way sort of lived up to the excitement that I'd got up for myself following that end of episode cliffhanger on Monday. Especially, go on.
I thought that the whole concept was cheesy and fun, and it is like a summer horror movie where I don't take any of this seriously either, because there's so many things that happened this week that could have been spun into a serious, very special episode. And I do think it was a bit of throwaway silly fun. I don't think that in a month's time any of this is going to matter.
Oh, well, nothing ever does these days, does it?
But I'm like, oh no, Gary's in hospital. He'll be fine.
He's going to be totally fine.
The drugs they took. Oh, it's all hallucinogens. It's all fine. It's not like they were shooting up heroin, is it?
The drugs didn't particularly bother me in the end. And I don't know what sort of message Corrie was wanting to give about drugs, but obviously it really did a number on Lauren, and she had yet another trip to the hospital. But when Summer and Nina were out of their minds, looking at their hands and making rainbows come out of them or whatever it was they were imagining, it was kind of saying, hey, look, aren't drugs fun? Aren't these characters who are on drugs fun?
But they were like, I look, don't. I have no experience to base any of this on, but the way that they were, I feel like it was kind of a balanced portrayal, because you had Bernie going, oh, I was one with the universe, and I felt like I was experiencing myself as the universe, and then you had those two characters, Summer and Nina, having a really great time. And then you had Lauren having the worst trip of her life. Then you had the next day, Summer and Nina both being like, oh man, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
Because they had a bad experience on it. But I think anyone watching it is not going to go, I must rush out immediately to get some LSD. But equally, I don't think there was any like misinformation of the sort that you normally get when a show like this is clumsily trying to tell you not to do drugs. Because they feel they have a moral responsibility. Because, but Bernie was like, yeah, I had great experiences. And then you saw them have a bad experience. So at the end of the day, I don't feel as though I was kind of encouraged one way or the other.
No, no, not particularly. And I didn't feel like I was being lectured at about the dangers of LSD either.
I know lots of people hated this story, and I thought it was kind of they don't care about the teens. I'm surprised that so many people said they don't care about this group of characters, because yes, I think half of them were new, but the rest of them aren't. And I know we've been moaning a lot about new characters, not really liking them, but I mean half the characters we've seen like grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I did. I'm not a massive fan of Brody. Not a massive fan of Lauren.
Yeah.
But Betsy's fine. Dylan, we saw him as a baby, so I really, really love and cherish this opportunity to watch this generation of characters interact and have these like really seminal experiences. And I also do love the horror element of it. I do think it is kind of like a horror movie, because there are so many horror films, like Talk to Me, or I know you did some last summer, or any of these, or like Scream, where there's a big party and they're all having fun, and then something terrible happens and it changes their lives forever, and somebody ends up in hospital or dead. Yeah. I just think it's cheesy, corny popcorn nonsense.
Which you don't.
But I like
this kind of thing. You don't see on Corrie very much.
No.
It reminded me a little bit of when we had the what was it, the drag night in the Rovers last week, where everything was full. Having number 7 packed to the rafters with teenagers, just having
Brian and Steve
and Brian and Steve. that was an excellent. It didn't make sense, because didn't Brian and Steve come in and said, "Oh, we were just next door with Gemma," and then we heard the news. It was something along those lines. Like, what were you doing at number 5? I don't know, but they were brilliant, and just people having fun. And seeing lots of people in a room. It doesn't take much to please me as a Corrie fan. Just pack a load of people into the scenes and show them having a good time. And usually I'll go along with the ride. But yeah, as I say, once Monday's episode was gone, and then Wednesday and Friday came along, this was the reality, the hangover, I suppose, for me, when I was like, oh, this is just going to mean more hospital and police scenes, isn't it? Mm. And we did, and that was a real downer. Seeing more visits to A&E, more interviews, more. Yeah, that's what I don't like about Coronation Street. And then the biggest kick in the teeth for me was this ridiculous spoiler that Coronation Street put on its social media on Thursday night that gives away the identity of the person who that Summer and
Nina.
Nina had seen. What on earth was the thinking there?
I stick by my theory that the Sun or somebody like them was gonna do an article, and so they went, no, you're not.
I just don't understand it. The thing is, I'd seen rumours somewhere, and I don't remember where it was, and it was a couple of weeks ago, that Gary was going to get beaten up. But I hadn't seen it in any way linked to what was going on with the party here.
Really wish that it had been the surprise.
Yeah. So I was going into, after I watched Wednesday's episode, I thought, this is probably the Gary thing. But I'd much rather have been left, and hopefully lots of our listeners and hopefully lots of viewers weren't spoiled. But it boggled my mind that why on earth would you put the reveal of a big mystery, the central mystery of this week, why not leave it until the episode to reveal it? Because I don't think there was anything in the synopses about it. The fact that it was left to the last scene of the episode was clearly meaning that Gary in the hospital was like a sting in the tail. And now so many people went into the episode knowing exactly what it was. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever unless they were trying to prevent someone else from getting there first. But I don't get that, and that's really quite infuriating me. And hopefully it's not going to be something that they'll do again. I mean, Corey's always giving spoilers for this. They're always giving spoilers for this, that or the other. But I mean, it's the equivalent. It's literally the equivalent of in the Joel death week, right?
Yes.
On the Thursday night before it gets revealed what happened, say, yeah, turns out that it was Lauren. And then we get to watch the episode saying, we know it's going to be Lauren. No. It's just the same. Or going back, when Andy appeared in the cellar, rather than having the big reveal at the end of the episode that the person Pat's been visiting is Andy in the cellar, having saying on Corey's social media saying, hey, guess what? Andy's back tomorrow. They even almost did something like this, sorry for my rant, on I think it was Monday during the day, or it might have even been Sunday. Corey put something on their social media with Callum Millie saying, hey guys, I'm back in Coronation Street tonight. Tune in at 8 o'clock to find out. What on earth? I know that we're supposed, returning characters from the dead. There's a ten a penny thing these days. But, and also the rumours had been rife that Callum was going to return again. Also, Joel was going to return again. But why on earth spoil that, something that's again supposed to be like oh my gosh, it's him, they've got him back, she's having a hallucination.
If you were looking forward to it,
why
you would have been underwhelmed, I think.
What, for Joel? I mean, what I don't know, it was alright, I didn't mind it, but
I was actually surprised at how, I don't even think we mentioned it in our short, because it was just like old news, and also in on different levels, like old news characters come back from the dead, old news Callum Millie's come back to play Joel.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
happened then.
Corey, all I'm saying is watch what you put in on your social media. Stop giving things away. This is another level of spoiler here.
People work really hard on this show, and like Callum had to come, make sure he was free that week and come and be in the lots of people move on and they don't want to come back, so why spoil something really? I can kind of
half semi understand that if you're a Callum Lil fan, if you're a Joel fan and you see this, you think, oh, that's quite interesting, I'm going to watch the episode now to see how he turns up. But who is going to see a picture of Gary Windass hooked up to all the heart rate monitors and breathing apparatus and go, oh, that's exciting, I can't wait to see what happened then? It's obvious what's happened then, because we've been told that this happened a few days ago, and now at some point we're probably going to have a flashback to it. I just really, really don't understand that. Other thing about this week, we did get a lovely piece of promo art for it. The teens, a photo, teens on the sofa with a little, kind of a rainbow background, isn't it? I think that's
Pride Month.
I wondered whether it was a Pride Month thing, but I really like this picture actually. They did it as a 2-stage one, didn't they? There was this one, or Gemma and I are looking at it now, which has got all of the main teens on the sofa and chairs at number 7, and they're all just looking like they're having a jolly good time, and they've got some bottles in hands and what have you. And then there was like an after picture, wasn't there, which was everybody looking sad, and it's all in black and white. I don't think they particularly needed this, but I really, I do like this picture of them.
I like the promo. I like them bothering to do promo stuff.
Yeah.
Who was this photographer?
Danielle Bagley, probably. Yeah, I thought that was very nicely done, and I don't need them to do more of that sort of thing, but I thought it was worth mentioning that
They made one.
They made one, exactly. So let's scroll
What
back
happens?
a little bit and take it apart and remind ourselves of the main scenes of this episode and see if any other discussion points come out of them. I'm sure they will. It's the party idea came about last week, where Bernie had told Ardy and Summer and Amy that they needed to live a little, and Ardy kind of took that to heart. It's like, yeah, we're going to have the best party ever. And Bernie starts off Monday's episode telling him that he should make it Midsummer theme because it was Midsummer's Day on Saturday, I think it was. So he sets up this group message to start inviting a few people, which then spreads and spreads and spreads. And by the time the party itself begins, the whole house is packed to the rafters. Brody's got in on the act as well, deciding that He
tries to buy booze to start with. He's the one who brings the drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
He tries to buy booze off Ardy, but he's got a fake ID and...
Brody calls Ardy proper boring.
Yeah.
There's a few little things that niggle Ardy throughout the day, aren't there? And I think that's what eventually leads him to saying, hey, let's try this
fun.
LSD. I'm fine, let's try this. I wish that Dev had come back this episode. I don't know when he's going to be back.
Imagine if Dev had been the one in hospital.
Yes,
now, that
actually.
would have been shocking, wouldn't it?
Well, what was kind of interesting with it as well, I suppose, again, we'll get there, but Nina and Summer know that somebody kind of came at them, and we don't really know what happened then, but I suppose because they're off their heads, I can't imagine that Gary took a pop at them in the street. But they must not know it was Gary. So they've got enough memory of the evening that somebody came along and they left. And
all they know is that a bloke lunged and then went on the floor and hit his head.
So, I mean, Gary's fairly recognisable, I suppose. So it could have, even if it had been Dev, I suppose if they didn't recognise it was Gary, they might not have recognised it was Dev. And that could have been... Yeah, that could have been quite an interesting twist. But oh well, I'm sure we'll be back at some point. Anyway, the party starts. There's multiple flash forwards that we said with Summer
going on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and it's a pretty...
Summer's such a dork. I love
it's
her
a
so
pretty
much.
banging... I don't even know how to describe parties because
It's
Summer's
off
cooler than me. I'll tell you that.
It's off the hook.
It was very off the hook. Yeah. Asher's there being very peeved by the whole thing because she's not been consulted about it and she's worried about...
She's going to work. She's got to go to work, so she can't even have fun.
Yeah, exactly. And she just tells Ardy, look, nobody better get hurt, nothing better get broken, be on your best behaviour. Then we cut to Betsy, who's still at home doing her makeup, and Lisa and Carla are getting ready to go out to a concert or something. Lisa's very excited about this. I don't think anything particularly comes of that, does it? So it's just, Betsy's getting ready to go out.
What happened to this festival, this music festival?
I don't know.
They're supposed to be going to.
I don't know. But then the other big reveal, I suppose...
This was silly.
What?
It's like, everyone was like, oh, no one cares about this reveal, but, I mean, we knew this.
The fact that Kit is actually the father of Brody, that comes out in this episode, doesn't it? Kit's got the DNA test results.
Was there any tension here?
No, I don't think... I suppose they could have played it that he wasn't the dad, but...
They literally showed us, they made a flashback episode so that we would know.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible for it to be anyone else's because I don't think Mick can count.
It was more a case of the characters had to find out at some point, I suppose. They needed confirmation, and it's felt like a sort of scene where we were gonna...
I know, but it didn't feel like... Did you...
No, I just thought it was going through the motions.
I saw some people saying, oh, it's silly because it was a big reveal and it was buried in this episode about other things, but it wasn't. To me, it was like, we knew this.
Yeah, I don't think it really felt like it was supposed to be a big deal. I think the writer knew that it wasn't going to be... Nobody's jaws were going to be dropping on this. Ian Kershaw wrote Monday's episode, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Then we got Lauren, who's also planning to go along to this party. It turns out that a load of people who weren't invited, and this includes Lauren, have found out about it because of the message spreading. It turned out that it was the guy from the deli counter at Freshco's that told Lauren about it.
Where is he?
Like, did he come?
No one worried about him going missing, did they?
Yeah.
Who's going to slice the ham?
Meanwhile, you got Brody hanging around outside the cabin, I think it was, showing Dylan a little vial of LSD that he's planning to take along to it. He's not invited either, but he knows how to have a good time, and this is it.
You don't need to be invited, apparently.
No, just turn up. So Asher... She does go to work eventually, doesn't she? But she's she's just being squaring it up by swapping people's wine glasses for paper cups.
Brilliant.
And then we got Betsy sneaking a bit of vodka into her and Lauren's drink as well. Ardy, meanwhile, is pretty pleased with how this is going.
I'm sorry, but my heart breaks for how adorably dorky and cute all of these people are. And maybe I'm infantilizing them because they are so much younger than me, and they are all adults. But I just find this all so utterly adorable about how chuffed Ardy was with his party and how Asher was such a mother hen about all of the cups.
I'm going to say that I think this was quite possibly my favourite Ardy episode ever.
He was on top form
all the way through.
Yeah.
Adam Hussein was just brilliant. Yeah, you're right. Just dorky. And he was really pleased with himself that it was going well. The bit where he overhears Asher and Amy and Summer... No, it was Amy and Asher talking about him. That kind of made my heart break a bit. And as later on in the episode, when he's trying to wheedle out of what happened, because there was a bit, wasn't there, where he trips up the step outside Underworld when he's fallen over himself to try and deflect Carla and Lisa from going into the factory, and then it turns out that it was an accidental trip.
But he also walks into a cupboard later this week as well.
Yes, he does. He's brilliant.
I think he needs to get his ears flushed or something.
Yes, this was...
Do you think he's got an imbalance?
Yes, this was a very dramatic, high-stakes, kind of dark episode in many ways. He brought the comedy to it in absolutely pitch perfect. As I say, this is, for me, one of my absolute favourite appearances of one of my current absolute favourites in the show. And for someone who never gets any time in the spotlight... I don't get it, because he's been one of the best recastings in Coronation Street history.
And him and Asher, the dynamic with Dev, is brilliant.
I think that Ardy and Asher have got this perfect brother and sister dynamic going on, yet Corrie so rarely leans into it, aside from the odd scene here, there, if you're lucky. So this centering around Ardy, it was just right up my street. It was brilliant. Anyway,
so he's clumsily flirting with Amy.
Yes, and
tells her her hair and her teeth are great.
Like he's I like
sizing
your
up
teeth.
a horse.
It was just why teeth? I don't know, but it just shows that he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. He's not experienced in the ways of love, despite
remember that fling he had last summer
with Courtney. And
he nearly got married to Kelly. He's had moves. He's had his chances. He's just not learned from any of them.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. But it showed how into Amy he was, and how kind of, because these two have been circling each other for over a year, is it?
Oh, longer. It feels like
longer. I
longer.
don't know why Corrie hasn't put them together soon, because I think that they've got really brilliant chemistry. They're both just as nerdy and geeky as each other. I think that they would make a really fantastic couple. And we do get a snog in this episode, but then this is when Asher walks through the middle of them, doesn't she, to kind of break it up, because she's too embarrassed of her brother snogging somebody. I think it was fantastic. Anyway, then
they all are a bit too old for this kind of like
I don't care
behaviour, but it doesn't bother me one bit, because everybody under the age of 30 is the same age.
They still have awkward teenager energy for me. This lot, even though they're totally past that stage. Like, I think they're probably there's probably not much between them now and say like how Daisy was when she first came into the show.
Oh gosh,
and she
really?
felt like so
Daisy's
much more of a grown up
ahead of them.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but equally, if you think back to classic Corrie, I suppose, the younger characters were more a little bit like this, and you had the likes of, I don't know, Flick Khan and even Jenny. I think back in the day were closer to what this group are like,
just like a bit
as young
awkward.
Adults. Yeah, not cool, confident.
Yeah. Not like Gossip Girl.
No, exactly.
More like Fresh Meat.
yeah, it is. Anyway, Brody and Dylan turn up, and Ardy's not having any of this. He tells them to do one, and Brody, he doesn't take no orders from anybody.
They don't care.
They're not interested. They're not moving. And this is when Steve and Brian come in, which embarrasses the heck out of Amy, because it's her dad coming in to spoil the party. But I don't know whose idea that was to bring them in, and it was pretty pointless at the end of the day, apart from just comic relief.
Makes no sense. Like, you would never. This wouldn't happen, but I don't really care.
It was funny. Does Steve and Brian ever have any scenes together? I don't know, but they're both kind of embarrassing dad sort of figures. I mean, Brian's not even a dad. But yeah, really fantastic addition.
Brian needs to kick back with an IPA.
I can't remember.
He's had a hard time recently. His beloved is dead.
I can't remember whether it was Wednesday's episode or today's episode where you see Steve and Brian meeting each other in the street and giving each other a hug or a handshake. I can't remember what it was.
Well, they're bonded, haven't they?
I think that they could do a lot worse than leaning into that little relationship. I think they could be onto something there.
Now, what does Brian do at the moment? He works at the cabin. Now, the cabin doesn't exist anymore.
No.
The cabin's been turned into a bunch of sawdust, as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. So why not just... And obviously Jenny works there.
Yeah.
Why not... This is a bit of a... I don't know whether this is actually a good idea or not now. Why not put Brian at streetcars?
I don't know whether...
Brian, Tim and Steve. Brian on the switchboard instead of Eileen.
They do need a new switch operator, don't they?
Get him in some scenes. He would be really funny with those two.
I think you're right. That could be a really good place for him, because you're right. They're not showing him at the cabin, so... And he's had so few appearances just because his place of work.
And Peter Gunn is such a great comedic performer. He's really funny in real life, and I think that they could really play into his awkward, like, weird uncle at a party energy for being on the switchboard.
I can't see why, what plot reasons he would have to leave the cabin unless he gets fed up of working with Jenny. I don't know, but yeah, that was great. Then you got the heartbreaking scene where Asher and Amy are sitting down on the stairs, and Asher's going, so, how was that snog with Ardy? And Ardy's listening in, like,
all excited.
He's round the corner, isn't he? He's like, oh, they're talking about me. Because, as far as he was concerned, that was electric, that kiss. And he's just grinning, and then you see his face fall when Amy's like, I like him, but I didn't really feel anything, to be honest.
No.
How gutting for Ardy. But he's just the sad dog that gets kicked, isn't he? He's like the perennial punch bag of Coronation Street that nothing ever really goes well for. And go on, what were you going to say?
He kind of reminds me a little bit of Kirk, but not stupid and full of silly lines.
Yeah.
Where he's like a bit of a dog's body.
He is, yeah, but he still gets back up again, doesn't he?
He does,
and has that confidence. But yeah, that was sad. So
he's just a Chumbawamba kind of guy.
He is. That on top of Brody telling him he was a massive dork earlier on in the episode,
and we've been slacking him off.
We have.
Who? We've been calling him a dork the whole time. As well.
He would own it, I think.
He loves spreadsheets.
You can't go around talking about spreadsheets and pivot tables without people telling you're a dork. Embrace it, Ardy.
This is what we need in this country.
Then he spies Brody with this vial of LSD and demanding to know what it is. Takes it off of him, and before long they're having a bit of a tussle. Brody tips over the coffee table. He's getting pretty mad.
Last time that happened, somebody nearly died.
What was that?
Lou and Maria.
Did they?
She fell through the coffee table. They're lucky that wasn't made of glass.
Yes.
Good job. Dev's behind the times, and he doesn't have the same taste as
David does.
As David, and also what's his face?
No, what?
No, what's the guy, the Irish actor who was in Saltburn, whose table it was?
I don't know.
What's his name? Barry Keoghan.
Oh, okay.
Good job Dev and Barry Keoghan don't shop in the same place for their coffee tables. Otherwise there'd be another bloodbath.
Anyway, this is the moment that Kit comes in to cool things down, and that was a bit of a water on the party for me, cold water on the party. I could do without him coming along, but it was kind of necessitated because he needed to help get Brody out of the place. So Brody storms off. Bernie's there as well, telling Ardy that he needs to get this place cleared up, and Amy checks that Ardy's all right.
It's not even dark, Bernie.
They like them. I suppose it is a midsummer party.
I know, but it's still like, it can't be later than 10.
No, it was the afternoon.
It's like the middle of the day.
Yeah, another daytime party.
Make your mind up, Bernie. You either want to have a right rager, or you want him to be tucked in for Coco.
This is Amy that at this point comes over to Ardy and sees if he's all right, and he's like, "Oh yeah, why wouldn't I be?" Because his pride is taking a massive bruising after what he overheard there. It's not Amy's fault, but it was sad for me because when they kissed there, I was like, at last they're getting these two together, and I have been yearning for this couple.
Don't get weird.
For so long. I'm not getting weird about it. I'm not. I just really, really think that they would make a brilliant couple, and clearly it's not to be.
Back to square one, I'm afraid.
Anyway, Ardy has, as I say, got his pride hurt, so he's decided that time for desperate measures, and he's going to be cool by taking drugs. He's got his LSD off of Brody, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe we should try some." Summer's like, "Oh yeah, great stuff. I had some in America actually." How much did that bother you? Because I've seen a lot of people online saying utterly ridiculous.
I was like, sure you did. Sure you did, Summer.
It was a bit of a Tracy saying, "Oh yeah, I had lesbian relationships in prison actually, Paula. So yeah, why not?" It felt a little bit like that.
It felt a bit, yeah. Well, you mean like made up on the spot by, to facilitate a story.
Yeah, because they clearly wanted some reason for Nina and Summer to get off their heads.
I would have really liked it if Summer had said, "Oh yeah, the people were doing it all the time in America, and I always wanted to try it." That seems like more of a Summer thing to me than I was a massive drugs fiend. I actually had my own.
Maybe that's how she ended up with Felix when she was over America.
Maybe that's why Felix
woke up in bed with him the next day.
You know, he had that giant water bottle. We don't know if it was LSD or not.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Giant
massive water bottle of LSD. Yeah. So she's not the sort of character that would.
I don't think you can say that. I really don't think you can say that.
I mean,
no.
I will say though, this is her family has had at least 2 bad experiences with drugs. So obviously the main one people remember is Billy and his heroin addiction after he fell off a cliff.
I thought you were going to say Billy driving into, what's her face, Barlow, when everyone was high on drugs in that car. What's her name?
Susan.
I keep thinking it was Sharon.
No.
Yeah. He was on drugs when he was a kid. Then he got back on it again when his brother turned up.
Yeah, so Summer has seen firsthand the devastating effects that drug misuse or abuse can have. And I know it's a different type of drug.
Not all drugs are the same.
I know, but Summer to me seems like the sort of person that does tar them all with the same brush.
You're thinking Summer's like you.
Yeah, I know. She's very, very straight-laced usually, and I don't think that she would do that because of what she's seen happen to Billy. Secondly, she's also been in hospital before after she took Spice when she was a teenager. Back when she was the old Summer. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
When everyone was doing Spice in Manchester, and that was Corrie's issue storyline du jour. And so, but despite that...
Good for her. Didn't that put her off?
Despite that, it didn't particularly bother me.
God
because
likes to try her,
I like to see Summer having fun. Like I said earlier, Harriet Bibby feels like she's a fun kind of person, and it's nice that she got a little bit of that energy into Summer. I know it's not a great...
Summer, to me, is like if Hermione was a muggle.
Really?
Just a square.
Yeah.
But she can't do magic.
No, so she has to take LSD to see magical fairies and hippogriffs instead.
I'll make my own magic with this LSD.
Yeah. So that it didn't completely work for me, but it didn't bother me as much as
you
it
can
does
just
other
imagine
people.
it going Leviosa, can't you?
So anyway, she and Ardy kind of share some out a little bit, but then Ardy's called upstairs because somebody's been sick up there, and so Summer and Nina take a sit themselves. Nina's up for anything. That doesn't particularly surprise me that she would.
You're stereotyping.
No, not at all.
She's just very open-minded.
She's very alternative.
And also, I heard that bat watchers are massive into what are they called? Psychedelics.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why they it's all a front, that they only look for the bats because the bats got good guano that grows the mushrooms.
Right. It's all making sense now.
It's all the circle of life.
Yeah. So anyway, Ardy comes back later, and the cup that he poured his LSD concoction into has gone. And everyone's taken the same cups, thanks to Asher.
Who picks up a random cup at a party that's got stuff in it?
Lauren does.
Nobody does this. It's definitely, I would say, if you're maybe they're making out that she was already impaired because of the vodka that Betsy gave her. But I would be so shocked if there are any young women who are picking up drinks they don't know where they're from at parties.
I would have thought that Lauren might have learned some lessons after being a bit of a victim the last year or so.
Yeah, I'm not blaming anyone. If you think that's your cup, that's completely different. But who in this day and age is just picking up, apart from anything else, it's got someone else's spit in it. Oh, I honestly wouldn't even think about, oh no, this might be spiked. I'd be like, ooh, boy spit, I'm not having that. I want my fresh one.
But they don't know that it's Lauren first, do they?
I guess the point is that she thought it was her cup.
I think it must have been that.
Yeah, but you're right. The whole point of the Asher giving out the cups was that no one can tell.
Yes. So they're panicking about who this could possibly be, and there's somebody who's going to be spiking themselves any second now. Where's Asher?
They thought it was Asher who'd taken the drugs because and
oh
she's
yes,
gone
they
to
did,
work.
didn't they? They did. They thought that she'd be high on.
She'd be there like with pulling someone's guts out their nose or something.
Yeah,
thinking she was
draping it all over themselves.
Going, ooh,
like,
pretty.
Yeah, I'm a Christmas tree. Then we got a bit more Brody, and to be honest, on Monday, every time the story went to the Brody parentage subplot, I just got a little bit less interested. I
liked Kit a lot more than most people,
more than me,
and in general, but I couldn't be bothered with Brody and Kit appearing.
I thought it was. I mean, maybe it is going to turn into something later on because he finds this tube before in a skip, doesn't he? And then he starts attacking Kit with it later. He must
have been involved somehow in what happened to Gary.
He's got to have
Gary
been.
And Kit,
or he was either involved, or because he was spoiling for a rumble here, he's going to be accused.
Well, Gary and Kit have form.
Yeah.
So if Kit and Brody were having a fight because Brody was trying to menace people and Kit was trying to stop him, and then Gary Camp comes over, I can see him getting in between them and causing a kerfuffle.
I don't think that Kit knows what's happened to Gary. But it wouldn't surprise me if either, Brody is the one responsible or he's accused of
Why don't you think
it.
that Kit knows what? Oh, no, Kit doesn't know because he questioned them on Wednesday and he didn't go, this sounds a lot like what I did to Gary.
I suppose to be fair, I felt if that was me, I would want to keep it under my hat that I was involved in something.
Yeah, but you wouldn't question people about it, would you? You go, well,
gotta keep up appearances.
Mind you, he was very dismissive. And he accused them of wasting his time, which is definitely what I would do.
Yeah,
but
you're not wrong.
On the other hand, no, Gary is quite good with a 2x4 because he got Pat Phelan.
Exactly.
He's got practice.
Yeah. Anyway, Ardy eventually finds Asher coming out of Sainsbury's, and he's like, "Is everything okay, Asher? Anything weird going on?" And she's like, "There wasn't, but there is now because of how suspicious her brother's acted."
Imagine if you were Ardy's sister, like you just spend your whole life like.
I know, it's great. Anyway, he says, "Look, I think you might have drunk some drink that maybe had some drugs in it," and she says, "No, I didn't have any of the lemonade. I'm fine."
Oh, that's suspicious. I didn't say it was lemonade.
Meanwhile, you got Lauren, and this was major wobble cam time for her, wasn't it?
Stumbling around in the ginnel.
Didn't particularly bother me, you know.
What is that called where they phase around?
I don't know. But they didn't need that camera
it
effect.
Doesn't bother me. It's water for ducks back now.
It's a little bit. I just kind of rolled my eyes at it and moved on. Speaking of eyes, though, I did appreciate the googly eyes on the bin.
I know, I thought...
Was that actually there, or was she hallucinating that?
Do you know what would be really interesting is to watch this scene if they didn't have any effects and to see, would it actually be more affecting to us now because we're so used to effects that if they had a character going through this and they were just stumbling around, we'd be like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I don't know. So the big surprise in inverted commas here is that then this guy approaches her and she turns around and she sees it's Joel. So Joel's back in hallucinogenic form, and we're going to be quite soon getting onto double digits for the number of characters that have returned from their dead in the past 12 months. It was fine, I can't get up that much enthusiasm about it. There's no surprising characters coming back.
I don't know what the point of it anymore is. like, here, it was just to scare Lauren. Right? But I don't think I need... Like, I believed that Nina and Summer were scared without even seeing them be scared. I didn't really need to see through her eyes that she saw Joel.
No.
It was...
I didn't mind some of the effects. Like, when she goes into the factory later and, like, Joel is kind of merging into the mannequins and he's standing there with the baby. It was quite trippy and freaky, but
it just feels like...
I'm sure it could have been just as affecting with a great script, great lighting, great direction, and not having any of this very un-Coronation Street visual effects.
But you've got to do something. You really do have to do some kind of camera thing. Otherwise it is just somebody gasping and stumbling around. And there's definitely... Okay. Without this effect, you wouldn't actually really know that she was the one that had been spiked and she wasn't drunk. You just assume that she was spiked, but you wouldn't actually know. Some people would go, "Oh, maybe she's just drunk." You do need a visual cue to show that she was spiked. So how do you do it then?
I don't.
How do you do it without her going, "Oh, I must have been spiked"?
I don't know.
Do you see what I mean? You have to have that.
Could
How
they have just not
around?
Could they have not just made? It would have been obvious though, wouldn't it? Because by this point, everyone was already saying, "Well, somebody's going to be spiked." If they then just show a character wobbling around, you're still going to probably guess that it's them.
So there would definitely be people that wouldn't have gotten it. I'm just telling you that.
I don't know. How did it compare to Stephen Reed's LSD trip 3 years ago?
Rubbish.
Or was it 2? It wasn't quite as good, was it? I mean, he also saw dead people, but he saw a whole conference room full of them.
I thought it was fun. I think everything that Uncle Stephen did was brilliant.
Stephen's LSD trip was a scene of the year. I'm not going to say Lauren stumbling around googly-eyed bins quite lives up to it for me.
It just the saturation point I've got to now is that such that it doesn't affect me at all. It's sad because this might have been a really amazing... Wow, I can't believe it. Maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, I would have been like, wow.
Yeah, it's
but
just
now we've had millions of them. It's just like you. But again, like I said, how would you?
I'm sure they could have managed it.
Well.
Anyway, so you got
Michael. Even back in the very beginning of Coronation Street, they had wobbly.
Oh, I know.
So
within the first
no point.
Couple of weeks of it, they
exactly.
did,
but... The first 10 episodes, they had somebody on LSD.
I don't think that's what happened to May Hardman.
No, it wasn't.
Is that what she was sent home from the nut house with? Because that's what they did these days.
Listen, madam, the NHS is full already. Take this LSD and go home. And if you're not dead by Wednesday, just come back in.
Anyway, we then get the big reveal to Brody that Kit's his dad. It's Bernie, the one that rips the plaster off there, because he's there kind of swinging this big plank at him, and Bernie tries to break it up and is like, "Kit's your dad." And Brody's just in total denial about it all. And Bernie says, "We've got proof. Look at the email." They go up to the flat. It was fairly dull stuff, in my opinion, that part of the story. I was just looking forward to more of the Ardy stuff. And so he's bringing Asher back to the party later on to try and help him identify the victim of the spikey, as it were. And he's like proper panicking because he's thinking he's going to get into major trouble, isn't he? And he's such a straight-laced goody two-shoes a lot of the time. He's like, I suppose you don't have to be a goody two-shoes to think the police are going to catch me. And somebody's been spiked and it kind of is my fault. Was it Ardy's fault? Or was it Brody's fault? Who's most to blame here? Brody...
I would say probably Nina and Summer should have, once Ardy walked away from his drink, should have gone, "Let's just take this."
Yes,
make sure nobody drinks it.
Maybe, but I don't think you can say it's their fault.
It doesn't matter.
It's not their responsibility. It might have just been a sensible thing to do. Ardy was the one who said, "Let's do this." Yes, Brody brought it to the party, but I don't think he was he planning to go around spiking people, or was he going to savour it all for himself?
I literally do not know. I don't. It doesn't matter. These aren't real people.
No, but it is worth thinking, well, what will the consequences for Ardy be when this does eventually come out? Because by the end of the week, we do know that Lauren has been spiked because she's had that super quick drugs test, hasn't she? So the police aren't going to let it rest.
Okay, so here's my question. Was she spiked, or did she just drink a drink that she didn't know, or did somebody give it to her? Did somebody see this happen and go, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this to Lauren?
They could have done.
I'm not... Look, of course, I don't accuse me of victim blaming, because this is not what I'm doing. But are you spiked if you drank something by accident? They're calling it spiked because they don't know what happened. And Lauren is clearly really unsettled and upset, like anyone would be, to think that she'd been targeted by somebody with a drug. That's like the most horrendous thing, and a violation. That's really horrible and scary, and yeah, it's a violation, right? But did she not just drink the wrong drink?
There's obviously no intention to harm in there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, did somebody give it to her and she didn't realise?
It feels to me that she probably just picked it up.
I think language is really important, and I think that Coronation Street is in no way trying to misrepresent this, because the characters are only going on the information that they've been given. But to say that she was spiked, I don't think is actually correct. No,
but there's got to be some blame, some amount of blame, apportioned to the person who poured the LSD out.
You shouldn't just put drugs in cups.
But equally,
at a party and then act surprised when someone drinks it.
The person who brought the drugs to the party's got to take some of the blame here as well. And it's not like it was a secret that Brody had the drugs there, because he and Ardy had this big fight about it, this big tussle, didn't they? So everybody there knew that Brody brought drugs to the party.
So where mine was then.
It does make me think that probably before Ardy gets questioned about it, the finger of blame's going to be pointed at Brody. Someone's going to say, yeah, he had some.
It's just really, honestly, I find this part of the story feels very tiresome. I'm tired of it already, and it hasn't even started.
I just don't want Ardy to get in mega trouble about it, because I love him.
It feels like we had that with Max and Daniel and all that crap with who's spiked who. And
oh yeah, they did do that with Max, didn't they? Yeah, I forgot that. Anyway, so Ardy and Asher are back at the party, and this is where we get to see Nina and Summer completely high in there around a little disco ball thing, aren't they? And Nina saying, "I'm made of stars. I can shoot stars out of my fingertips."
Great.
Ardy realises that Lauren's missing, and he rushes upstairs to check her. No Joy though, so he checks out in the ginnel again. No sign for a little bit at least, but we get to see that she's crouching behind some wheelie bins by the cabin, and she kind of gets up, stumbles around a little bit, maybe hallucinates that I thought that it was kind of implying that the calling boy was calling to her, because I can't remember who it was that found her then. Maybe it was Ardy. Yeah, it must have been. And the calling boy outside the cabin is merging with him, so that was quite freaky. Oh no, it's Dylan. It was Dylan that was there actually, and then she kind of totters off towards the factory way. Meanwhile,
what was Dylan's there?
Yeah.
In the picture, everyone's looking at Dylan. The promo picture for this, a lot of people thought that Nina and Summer had attacked Dylan, because the focal point of the whole picture is everyone's looking at Dylan. Did Dylan give Lauren the drink, thinking it would be a bit of fun?
I don't know, but Dylan's not.
Why is he there? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to. Like, why did he follow her out?
Dylan's not really had the spotlight shone on him much this week.
It's only because this picture has got everybody looking at him, and I don't know whether it is just coincidence or artistic license. I don't know whether Danielle knew the photographer has been given. Everybody looks at Dylan. What's the purpose of this photo?
That is interesting, yeah.
There's nothing. Dylan has done literally nothing.
He was the most minor part of this whole episode,
turned up
wasn't he?
With Brody at the same time. I don't know if they went together. I guess they did.
Yeah.
He knew he had LSD. And since then, the only thing we've seen him do is appear when Lauren was in distress. We don't know why he knew that she was in distress, or if he even did, and why he was following her, or why he left the party, or why this photo makes out that he's the centre of attention.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really considered that, but you're right. It was an odd choice.
We've got form for massively over investigating the promotional materials. just because it's fun.
Dylan didn't really need to be there at all, apart from to get his episode count and boost the numbers of main characters. So maybe he's gonna dob Brody in, possibly.
Yeah, he might be that link.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out more next week.
But like,
what?
I just think it's like nothing really super bad happened, because we know that Gary's fine, and we know that
Gary's not going to die.
You know that Lauren doesn't even need her spleen. So what's the problem?
Right, talking to Brody, they're up in Kit's flat at the moment, and he doesn't believe this news that he's been told that Kit's his dad. He doesn't want to believe it either. And then it all comes out about how they pinched some of his DNA to do the test as well, and Bernie's like, yeah, sorry, that was me. Brody tries to call Lou, but Bernie's like, sorry, your mum already knows about this. So Brody is getting more and more wound up, and like you said earlier, definitely in the kind of state that you might then just go off and attack Gary if you find him in the round the back of
Gary's not an
random road somewhere.
He's not annoying, is it?
No, exactly.
I might hit him with a stick if I had one.
Taste of his own medicine. He doesn't believe Brody that his mum would have lied to him all this time, and he threatens to tell Mick, but Kit's like, well, yeah, sorry.
Everyone knows.
He knows about it too, so Brody's pretty mad and storms off.
Poor Brody.
Don't feel sorry for Brody.
Everybody knows apart from him. Tell you what, if you were to do like a leaflet, like a NHS leaflet about how to counsel somebody about their parenting perhaps not being what they thought it was, you this would be like what not to do. Confront somebody in the street with a piece of wood.
I thought you were going to say something else to your list then. Sorry.
I didn't know what else you wanted me to say. I think that's step one for sure.
I suppose, yeah, this had to come out sometime.
It's always going to come out in the worst possible
Brody
way.
Kit, I'm your real father. It just feels like
it's because I don't care about Brady, and I really genuinely do not know why. I just see him as a temporary character. There's nothing about anything I know about behind the scenes at all that it would indicate to me that he is a temporary character, apart from
he just got that
parade,
energy, hasn't he?
The parade of ne'er-do-well boys that have come before him and only been in the show for like a year.
And all met sticky ends or ended up in prison. So I find it hard to invest in him because of that. Yeah, the same. Lauren, meanwhile, gets found by Ardy underneath the factory steps, but she just sees that it's Joel there saying it's
when
me,
Ardy
it's me.
comes.
When Ardy comes. So she runs off again, lets herself into the factory, which leads to this bit kind of spooky chase sequence where Joel's ducking in and out between the mannequins, and at one point he's holding baby Frankie. And Joel's saying, it's only me, but I think this is Ardy calling through from the outside trying to help her. So she ends up just collapsing on the floor.
Is this Betsy's not locked the factory, and this is why?
I can't remember how she got in. She just did. Let's blame Betsy on it. She's got form for it. Meanwhile...
Sorry, the cat's sneezing.
Cat's just
you can
sneezing
hear
at the
weird
moment,
noises.
if you can hear that. Yeah, I don't know what's going up her nose. Meanwhile, Ardy can't get into the factory because Lauren's kind of locked herself into it. So he goes around the front and Carla and Lisa there. And this is, again, brilliant performance by Adam, just acting all kind of nonchalant and saying, oh, yeah, I just lost a cricket ball round here. And Swain sees Betsy coming out of the house, heads over to see her. Ardy's been able to deflect their attention a little bit. So he takes the opportunity to try and get back into the factory again, because Carla and Lisa head into the party to try and extract Betsy, who's there. She's still underage, isn't she? And she's there knocking back the booze. So she's mad at Swain for coming over and ruining things. So Carla and Lisa don't stay too long, head back out again, go over to the factory, let themselves in, and Ardy somehow manages to talk himself into going with them as well. They find the place in total disarray because of the mess that Lauren's made there. They kind of split up to find out who the intruder is. Hopefully, for their sake, it wasn't going to be anybody, some violent criminal.
Well, I mean, Carla only just got bonked on the head the other year.
I know, she didn't really learn a lesson there, did she? Somebody's broken into the factory. Don't investigate, Carla.
No.
We can't afford another kidney for you.
Not even if your girlfriend is a police officer.
It wasn't a kidney, was it? A liver? What transplant did she have?
Kidney.
Oh, okay. It was a kidney. All right. But anyway, and they even have Craig around to look after them anymore, to protect them from hardened criminals, do they? And factory invaders. Maybe they thought it was Bobby come back. We do learn officially this week, don't we?
They do spell it out
again. It's canonised in the dialogue that Bobby has decided that life with Simon Barlow beats hanging around on the street. So, alas, he won't be returning to Coronation Street anytime soon. Anyway, Ardy spots Lauren going out the back door, so she he follows her out, but she trips over, falls out, and she's just quivering as Ardy's approaching her to try and help her up. And they go round the side of Gail's house, or the Platt's house, back towards the street. And he's there. Was it Steve or Brian or somebody kind of notices that he's helping her hobble back to the street, and he gives this very sheepish kind of look at
who does?
Ardy. Just like,
who?
Yeah. It was to Steve or Brian. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, it was kind of funny. So they get to number 7. Lauren starts bursting into tears, and he helps her upstairs and says, "Let's go and lie down in the bed. I'm going to be there for you if you need me." I was just the slightest bit concerned for Lauren's safety at this point, because I was still building myself up for something big happening this episode. I just got the feeling that there was going to be a massive reveal or shock or twist, and there kind of was, but it turned out to just be what Summer and Summer and Nina got up to. But I thought, is Lauren? Are they going to kill off Lauren? Did you have any kind of sense that Lauren was going to end up dead in Ardy's bed by the end of the episode?
No, I'm just thinking about Lauren, because this is really intriguing. She goes upstairs to bed, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's out of it.
Yeah.
And then she comes back later, in the same episode, and collapses.
Yeah, she collapses on the floor downstairs.
But and it turns out she's got a broken rib and a busted spleen. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So we didn't see what happened to her to make that happen, did we?
I don't know whether it was just a general falling about that she was doing while she
How
was
can a girl
intoxicated.
Really, a girl can break her own rib. I guess it's possible. You can kill yourself by falling over.
Yeah.
But do you not think there's still a big... I think it's funny that there's still a big mystery about some of the stuff that's happened, but it doesn't feel like there is. Like, Gary is in the hospital, so we think, oh, okay, that must be what Nina and Summer saw. Okay, that solves that problem. It doesn't solve that problem at all, because not only do we not know what happened to Gary, but somebody's been texting Maria from his phone. Who the hell was that? What did happen to Lauren to make her spleen explode and her rib try to get out of her body? Like, what really did happen?
I don't think there's any mystery there.
Really?
I think it was just...
She fell over?
She took drugs and fell over and then hurt herself.
If you don't want your spleen to explode, you should stay away from LSD.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought the CIA cleared this up already last century, but apparently we still need to be educated.
Yeah, so as you say, Lauren is just a bit worse for wear there, isn't she? I think was it that episode or was it the next one that she collapses? I thought it was maybe the next one.
That's why I asked you.
I think it was the next one, because it doesn't matter. We also had in this episode Lou barging into Kit's flat, wanting to know what him and Bernie were thinking. What have you told Brody this for? It was off the scale, she says. And she says, "You're pathetic, deluded and toxic," and says, "Stay away from my son." And I think that was the last. Was that the last we saw of Brody this week? Yeah, How certain are you that Brody is responsible for Gary's current state? I'd definitely put it as a good 75% plus.
Whatever it is that happened with Asha, with Nina and Summer, between that scene and the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But
by the end of the episode, there was a bit of a time jump, wasn't there? Because everything else that happened in the episode, it was light. And when Nina and Summer come back into the cafe, all the flutter, it seemed like it was quite dark outside.
But didn't Asha go to work at night?
Asha did, yeah.
Yeah, so the next scene is Asha, it's nighttime. So there's a time jump between Kit, Bernie...
maybe it's the evening, I don't remember.
Kit, Bernie and Brody have a conversation. And then something happens with Summer and Nina.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so this is the big cliffhanger at the end of the episode. They stumble into the darkened cafe. You said, you pointed out, and I don't know whether anything's going to happen with this now, because Summer was dressed up as Florence Pugh from Midsommar, wasn't she? I think Nina was as well, and they had these beautiful flower crowns above on their heads. But when they come into the cafe, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me one jot if those crowns turn up at some point, and that implicates them or puts them right in the spot where this beating up happened. Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be. Anyway, they've done.
Tell you what, Florence Pugh would be great in Corrie, wouldn't she?
But yeah, probably not
She's
too
English.
bad.
She could be in it.
I appreciate it, even if none of the other characters got it. I appreciated the Midsummer reference because I very much enjoyed that film.
Me too. And it had drugs in it as well.
Yes, it did.
And people being spiked.
That had a bit of hallucinogenic in it, didn't it? That was a bit of, maybe that was a tribute from
If you're a bloke and your drink is a bit more pink than everyone else's, don't drink it because it's probably period blood.
Anyway,
or grenadine.
As we left Monday's episode, what did you have any? Were you leaning towards something that had happened? Because my immediate reaction was, they've hurt somebody or they've killed somebody, or and looking back on it, I think no, that would have been far too over the top, and as much drama as it was, I wouldn't want to have had to sacrifice either character because they've murdered somebody.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing about it. I'm like, it never feels to me like we're ever going to be caught out by an exit again. So I don't think that I know Summer and Nina aren't going anywhere. So them saying, oh, we did something terrible, it's like, well, whatever it is, are you going to go to STC? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're a young person on Coronation Street, I think they're too
big
old
enough
for it
big
now.
Boy prison,
but
big girl prison.
But it's we'll go to Highfield then. That's where the women go.
No, they don't.
Where do the women go then?
Oh gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but it's not that one.
Well,
Highfield's a men's prison.
It's irrelevant because you can do anything literally on Coronation Street, including murder, and still be in the show for years.
Yeah.
So
I was very excited about what they could have found, but thinking about it now, it can't have been huge. But as I say, just as the week went on, my excitement for it dissipated a little bit, unfortunately. But that doesn't take away from just the fact that I really, really loved Monday's episode as a whole, and that final scene. It's quite often in Coronation Street, you get to a final scene and you don't get a cliffhanger that's like, oh my god, I can't wait to find out what happens next. And that's what soap operas should have, isn't it? I don't know whether the Duffs on EastEnders are more like that, but they've got their little audio cue that makes you like, oh no, it's the end. Quite often now, when it's the end of an episode of Coronation Street, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a character that's worried a little bit about something, or they're giving somebody a bit of a funny look. But very rarely do I watch end an episode of Coronation Street gagging to find out what's happened next. You know? I do. But this one, I was like, I cannot wait until Wednesday to find out more about this. I hope that they don't leave it for ages before they reveal, which they didn't. Side conversation. What? Street. Do you think, and this is controversial as well, like putting Brian on Switch, do you think that Coronation Street needs to do something with their end theme and make some kind of musical sting or cue to emphasise surprise at the end? Because for a long time I've had a problem, even though it's traditional, the Coronation Street, it's like, look at this terrible thing. It doesn't go. That theme tune, as much as I love it, and I would never want to get rid of it, I do think somebody clever, it's not without the realm of possibility, that somebody clever could come in and go, I've got the perfect thing that can fit between the shocking thing that you put on the screen to make everybody go, wow, and the rest of the theme tune. There needs to be something different, because it is kind of a joke to me when something terrible happens and then you just get the horns come in. It doesn't quite have the same energy. Coronation Street has changed, impact. As we all know and have repeatedly discussed ad nauseum, has changed drastically from the beginning of its inception. I remember, what was it, when they put Philip Lowry's at the end of Daisy's thing, then we had a cut from her song into silence, and then we went into the Corrie theme tune, and it was just a mess. Like audio, you're right, audio speaking. It maybe was a very mess. Very clever musical person might be able to do something with it, but get that John Williams on it. Or doesn't feel so easy. Hans Zimmer.
could do something.
Maybe when they finally update the title music.
They need
the
to
title
change
theme. Title.
They need
titles.
to change the intro, the video, the whatever.
Yeah, intro sequence.
They need to change that because that's old and silly.
Yeah, that's like 15 years old or something now. So maybe they do it at the same time. Or maybe not. Wednesday comes round, and luckily for me, the very first scene of the episode was Summer and Nina investigating the streets and to find out where it happened.
No, I think if you weren't paying super much attention and you don't really know that much about how it's laid out, because lots of people don't, you would think that they were walking away from streetcars up towards Seb's garden.
Oh yeah, because there was a load of cuts.
It looked like that corner where you just come round from Preston Splatters.
I didn't see that, but I suppose
I think it looked exactly... That shot is used... That angle and that look is used all the time for people walking up that road. But it wasn't. It was...
This is the wall that's by Random Road, which is what's around the back of Roy's, and they use it for scenes like Nina and Seb got kicked. Most famously, and surprisingly, this didn't have an impact on Nina, but this was the very spot where she and Seb got kicked nearly to death.
Well, it's also
just 4 years ago.
The road where Joel lives and where all the red cars went up and down that night.
It's the same filming spot, but yeah. And and then they kind of, so they're looking around there, and then they go into...
It's parallel to Old Trafford Road, isn't it? Or whatever it's called.
Then they go into the little road that's, again, supposed maybe around the back of Roy's Rolls, but is actually supposed to be somewhere random in Weatherfield. And they're saying, oh, there was a baby. Do you remember? And this got me thinking, like, oh, have they left a baby to die? Or was, what happened there? But as you later pointed out to me, it was just talking about a piece of baby graffiti that was up on the wall.
She said, is that where the wizard baby, remember the wizard baby? And they showed them standing next to a graffiti of a wizard baby.
Yeah,
you wouldn't listen to me. I showed you the clip again, and I texted you, and we had a discussion. And still, the next day, you're like, "What baby did they kill?"
I know, I wasn't really paying attention.
I say they should have just killed Frankie.
That would have been useful, wouldn't it? Yeah, because I was thinking, was there a baby? When Lauren was hallucinating and saw Joel carrying a baby, was there actually a baby somehow mixed up with it? No.
That would be the most dark thing I could possibly imagine.
Yeah. Oh,
so you'd say they wouldn't do it.
They definitely do.
People get very upset if you kill a baby.
Was it bad enough with AI Ollie?
People don't like it. I'm just telling you that.
Anyway, Bernie comes into number 7 later. Ardy rises from the couch like a zombie, and she checks that the rest of the party was okay. And he says, "Yeah." And she's also saying, he talks to her about Brody a bit, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Brody's not so bad." She's still on the defensive, about her newly discovered grandson. Kit's also a bit distracted over breakfast time, Sarah Louise notices, and he tells her about the DNA results. He doesn't really know what to feel about the fact that he's acquired a new son.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. This is so uncharitable of me, but if I was Sarah, I would dump him like a very tall pile of bricks. Wouldn't you? Like, I'm not getting involved with this.
Too much drama here.
Brody,
I don't need a new son in my life.
No, this is not happening for me. I'm sorry.
You're not that.
I'm not
Kit.
altruistic at all about naughty boys.
He's just got too much baggage, and Sarah needs to learn a lesson. There's so many warning flags about this guy.
For a start, I'm not buying an extra present at Christmas.
I don't think Brody wants a present from Kit at the moment.
If I was Sarah, I'd lay down the law and I'd say, if he's going to be involved, we're doing Secret Santa, and then we only have to buy one gift each, and it doesn't matter how many secret sons or daughters you have, because it's still the same number of presents.
Secret Son Santa.
Yep.
Right, so Maria, meanwhile, Maria's trying to get hold of Gary, and anyway, we've already spoiled the ending of this, but she can't contact him since he's supposed to have come back from Anna's house last night, but he's not.
Right, and remind me what they were sulking about.
I think it was only a few weeks ago, but it was after she found out that she'd found out that he'd been spending some time with Lou, because Lou came into the flat and she ended up snogging Gary, didn't she? They had some beers, and she came in and found that he'd been with her, and his head was all over the place because she'd tried it on with him, and I think
she was kind of insinuating she was going to blackmail him.
Yes, that's right.
And she sent that text. So
she did. She texted.
Maria, so the question is,
from him.
Was Gary off in a huff because he thinks Maria doesn't trust him, or was he off to try to protect himself and Maria from Lou's manipulations?
I think he was just scared of what would happen with Lou, and he thinks that if I'm away from it, maybe Lou's going to lose interest, or if anything happens, at least I'm not there,
gonna be there.
to bear the brunt of it.
I won't tell Maria, though.
He's ashamed of himself for getting himself into a situation where Lou was very easily able to take advantage of him. And I think he was just licking his wounds a little bit. Anyway, he's got more wounds to lick by the end of the week. So Brian... it was him that saw Ardy and Lauren hobbling away from the factory, because he catches Carla later in the episode and says that, I saw them coming away from the factory, and Carla's like, oh yeah, what were they doing at the factory then? Bernie, meanwhile, sits down with Ardy and Asher and wants to know what's they're being so shifty about. And they said, look, Lauren, she went a bit heavy on the vodka last night. She stayed over. And this is when... Oh no, this wasn't when Lauren came downstairs, was it? That was still later on. Although when Lauren does emerge, I did like what they did with her hair, because it was really all over the place. It looked like Toilet Brush City there. So then you got Carla coming to the door, wanting to have a little chat with Ardy about what was going on. And he tells her, look, I came into the factory with you, went out the back, went home alone, nothing there. But he has got no poker face, does he, that boy? And so she kind of presses him a little bit and says, well, actually, Brian said that he saw you with Lauren. Did she break into the factory? He's like, no, definitely not. And then this is when Lauren comes downstairs and the gig's up for him, and she collapses at the foot of the stairs just for maximum drama. So they head over to the hospital, and just already by this point my energy and excitement for this whole story has just gone kasplat, because it's yet more hospital scenes. Lauren's got a broken rib, ruptured spleen. Ardy's...
See, look,
what?
The most... Okay, just look this up. Ruptured spleen, okay? The most common cause is blunt force trauma, such as from car accidents, falls or sports injuries. I don't think you can fall from, standing to the floor and rupture your spleen.
She's a very delicate flower.
She is the sort of person, if anyone could, it would be Lauren. Yeah,
if anyone's going to milk the drama of just falling over a little bit, it's going to be her, isn't it? Anything to get hooked up to a drip, honestly, with her.
She's like, whoa, I want some of that saline.
So they go to hospital. I've said that already. Ardy looks like he's going to confess something to Carla, but he kind of thinks better of it and heads back to work, leaving her with Lauren. Summer and Nina, meanwhile, go back to the pub. Amy soon comes in and joins them, but they're still keeping stum about what happened last night. Nina gets a text from Asher about Lauren. Oh, this is what's all about Lauren now. When she wakes up, Carla's there wanting to know what on earth was going on with her at Underworld last night. And Lauren says, look, I was just scared. She tells her about seeing Joel. I wasn't drunk though, she only had a couple. And if you'd like Lauren at the moment, you'd be pretty terrified, wouldn't you? Because no idea what's given her that reaction. She didn't know that she...
You'd think you were having a psychological break. Like you're having some kind of mental breakdown.
It's kind of interesting that Carla's the one that she's confessing this to, as Carla was heavily involved in that other LSD hallucination story. Carla didn't get spiked herself, did she?
Yes, she did.
Did she? What happened?
Yes, she did. She did. This is why I think Carla's involved in this storyline, because I think she's gonna work out some of this stuff. Yeah, because remember, Stephen specifically was trying to drug her because he ended up drinking it by accident.
Yeah. But he did drug her, did he?
Yeah, he did, because she was having a crisis and was talking to Roy about it.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I trust you. Yeah, I guess maybe she'll put two and two together there. Lawrence is saying, look, I'm really scared about what's happened, and Carla says, don't worry. Then you got the rest.
Didn't she end up going into a clinic or something because she thought she was...
Oh, yes, that's right.
And Peter was still there.
Yes, he was drugging her and she was making her think that she was having a relapse of her mental health issues.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually a huge story.
It was a big deal.
You have now reminded me about. Yeah, you're right.
But it wasn't funny like Stephen's was, so we forget it so quickly.
Exactly.
It's not my fault.
It wasn't the scene of the year material.
If you want to remember you taking drugs, it's got to be funny.
So Carla then goes and joins the teens, or the no longer teens, over at number 7, Ardy and Asher and that lot. And they're looking mega shifty. They're trying to blame the booze on what's happened to Lauren, but she doesn't buy it. She says, look, were there any drugs involved in this last night? And Amy's like, nope, we've got more sense. Because Amy doesn't know.
I'd be offended if I was Amy. Nobody even asked her if she wanted some.
Yeah. Summer and Nina just are looking mega guilty at this point.
Mind you, if Amy got hold of some drugs, she'd just go and drug up some blokes in a bar and dump them in a river.
Yes, she would. She'd use them for her female vengeance.
Yeah.
She'd,
good for her.
Yeah. Carla goes to the police station later, just because she can't wait to see Lisa. She's even got a little visitor's badge in that lets her into the back room with lots of very sensitive and secret information.
What are you doing in the back of
and
this
I don't know what they talk about, but I tell you what, there's a whole lot of hair twisting going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, it was really funny because you texted me and you were like, "Oh, have you seen any spoilers?"
Yeah, I ended up. We had the year 6 show at school this week.
It was very late when we watched.
Yeah, I didn't end up getting back home until just before 9 o'clock.
You're like, "You haven't seen any spoilers, have you?" And I'm like, "I can tell you with great authority that Carla twisted Lisa's hair because I've seen about 3 different gifts of that." And literally, the hilarious thing was, I didn't know anything else that happened in the whole episode apart from Lisa getting hair twirled.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of sweet though. There were so many gifts of that. Anyway.
Well, she has, in many ways, got Lisa around her little finger because by the end of the scene, she's convinced her to do a drugs test on Lauren just to see whether she actually was spiked. And Lisa says, "Look, if you can get a urine sample off her, then Bob's your uncle, I can get that sorted for you." So
he's gone.
Carla goes back to the hospital and hands Lauren this test tube and is like, "There you go,
She gives her a jug and goes, "Fill this up, baby."
Yeah. So Lou, meanwhile, sees Brody in the street. Oh yeah, he does make an appearance, doesn't he? He's trying to avoid her. See, now I'm thinking that Brody's been involved in what happened to Gary. I kind of want to rewatch this scene and see if he's given anything away.
Well, where has he been?
Yeah.
Because he didn't stay with his mum.
No, he's been missing in action since last night, wasn't he?
I presume that the whole family's now living back in their house.
Yeah, I think they're back in.
She moved out
in Wolsey Street.
She didn't go in there because obviously Nick trashed the place. But I assume that they're all there now because the kids aren't with Tim and Sally.
Yeah, well, he's especially frustrated with his mum at the moment, and it could well be because he was involved in this altercation last night. But he's certainly got good cause to be mad at her after, as he put it, she dropped her knickers for all of his dad's mates, and who else could it be? So he kind of stalks off, and then Kit, who's kind of watching some of this, and then he gets approached by Lisa, who says, "I reckon that Lauren's been spiked. Go and question everyone at the party. There's not been enough police action going on this week in Coronation Street. Let's redress the balance a little bit." So, end of the day at the salon, Maria is admitting to Lou, who's turned up at work that day, that she's really worried about Gary, who was supposed to come home last night but didn't. And Lou ends up offering to get her some drinks. So it looks like there are a few bridges being rebuilt there, which I'm sure will be shattered once more if indeed it turns out that Lou's son was involved in Gary getting sent to A&E. Brody is found by Bernie later swigging from a stolen bottle of booze at the precinct, and he says, "I know why you've been looking out for me now. You've not just been being nice. It's because you're my gran." She tries to tell him to go home and face his mum or his sisters, but he's like, "No, I'm going to find somewhere else to stay tonight. Don't care. Sorry, don't care about that." Amy, meanwhile, is helping Ardy tidy up the house and wants to talk about this kiss that happened on Monday's episode. Was it okay? Why did you end up going after Lauren? What's going on there? Unfortunately, they can't get too far into that conversation because Kit comes knocking at the door. And was it Kit? Yeah, he wants to speak to Ardy down at the station because of these drugs allegations. Later on, Ardy's back. We don't get to see any of the interrogation, probably for the best. And Bernie comes in with Brody and says, "Well, we're going to let him stay with us here now. He's staying at number 7. I thought that was pretty bang out of order of Bernie, don't you? Asking Brody, saying to the twins, "Oh yeah, he can come and stay with us now."
Oh, so he's not. Oh, okay.
He's not got a mysterious place to stay. He's actually staying at number 11.
No, yeah, this
isn't Bernie's house.
No, I know. I did think it was kind of cool. I like that they're on such a solid. Her and Dev are so solid in their relationship that she kind of feels like it is her house. That's because I like them together.
Yeah.
But I never really... Yeah, Bernie seems like the kind of person who will break rules for their family. So even though you wouldn't actually... I don't imagine she'd ever genuinely think that Dev's house was her house. But when it comes to bending rules, she'll do it for Brody.
Yeah, but I suppose you could say, well, why doesn't she take him back to number 5? But I suppose they've got a few too many bodies under that roof anyway. I think she does officially live at number 5, but I imagine
Well,
she's spending with Gemma.
Yeah,
But I imagine that she is spending more of her time at Dev's house, even when he's not there. I don't know. So you get Nina, Summer, and Ardy in the cafe later, all agreeing that we need to keep up the story, that there were no drugs at this party. We can't let this come back on us. Summer says, yeah, well, we're going to back you up on this. Nina seems less sure about this. And this is what we see of Nina as the week goes on, isn't it? She's clearly the one that's feeling the most guilty about what happened with this mysterious confrontation in the Ginnel. She wants to confess, but all the others are saying, no, we need to keep quiet about it. So she's kind of dragged along with it, I suppose.
Like that.
Yeah. And at the end of the episode, we get the two of them, Nina and Summer, locking up the cafe, and Nina's desperate to tell someone about what they saw last night. And Summer says, no, look, we went back to the road. There was nothing there. No signs that anything had happened. Nothing's been on the news. I think we got away with this. Nina says, we left someone to die. Summer says, all the more reason to keep our mouth shut.
Yeah, keep your mouth shut.
Why do you think there isn't any sign there? Is it just a case that Gary stumbled away from there, or went round the corner, or got a little bit further before he collapsed, or something like that?
Yeah, well, how long has he been in hospital? We don't even know that, do we? And why has nobody informed Maria?
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point.
So he doesn't have his ID on him. He doesn't have his phone. Someone else has got his phone. We know that much because he's not texting from a coma.
Yeah, someone's got his phone. So does Brody have Gary's phone?
Yeah, I wonder. That's what I'm starting to... And he's texting Maria.
And is he... When we saw him on the end of Friday's episode, was he definitely in a coma and not just asleep in hospital? Because he could have been awake earlier on in the episode to text Maria, and his phone could have just been plugged in, at the hospital.
What? Say that again?
He might... We don't... Sorry. Is he definitely in a coma, or could he just be asleep and he was awake?
In a coma.
Oh, did they?
Well, I think Coronation Street... I think it's been leaked also. Somebody said he was in a coma, I'm assuming.
Oh, I wasn't completely sure whether or not he was just asleep and he had been up and awake and texting earlier on and just choosing not to tell Maria where he was.
I'm wondering now if Lou's involved in this as well.
What makes you think that?
Because Lou has already got form for manipulating Gary and Maria. Why would Brody know to text Maria and say, yeah, I'm at my mum's house, I'm not coming back because I'm mad at you?
Maria else?
Who else would have the context of that argument between Maria and Gary to be able to? I know you could probably pick it up from the text messages, but who genuinely really has a link to that character and Brody apart from Lou?
Yeah, maybe she's involved. Maybe she's
helping. Yeah, to cover it up.
Yeah, but so I can't. Again, we'll have to rewatch the scene with Lou and Brody in the street. I can't remember whether she says anything that now, in hindsight, would give away that she is in on what he's got up to. I don't think so, but maybe we'll watch it again later. I don't know. Friday. Blimey, this was a long story. Are you sick of my voice yet? Probably. Friday comes along, and Nina's still very distracted at work. She ends up dropping a mug and smashing it. And then we see Ardy visiting Lauren in hospital, still mega guilty about feeling that he's to blame for her ending up in there. And she confirms the results to him, the DNA results, the drugs test results, and say, yeah, I was spiked. Who could have done it? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Maybe it was just a stupid joke. And Lauren's like, well, I don't see the funny side of it, actually. And Ardy's just there squirming away. Do you think that Ardy will eventually confess? It feels like
low stakes compared to everything else that's happened. Who cares if he had some drugs and somebody else took them?
I suppose throughout Friday's episode, he's trying to massively ingratiate himself to Lauren, isn't he? And falling over himself to help her and get her everything that she needs. Maybe he is building himself up to saying, this is down to do with me, and just hoping that she'll forgive him.
Lauren is the sort of person who I genuinely think would forgive somebody for this, because she's always getting herself into kerfuffles.
Well, she might just say at the end of the day, fair dues, I should have learnt a lesson and not taken a drink that I just found lying around on the side.
It was all a big mistake. And as far as the law goes, what's the law about taking... I don't think... You're not going to get in serious amounts of... having drugs with the intent to supply them is the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Taking drugs... you're not going to get a medal for it, but...
No, I know. I'm sure. I mean, it's all going to come out at some point anyway.
It's just one of these things where it's like, I don't think any consequences will happen, so I'm not even.
This is just what I'm saying. This is my feeling about this week. It started off on a real high, and as the week went on, it's just kind of less exciting, the consequences of it. Sadly, for me at least, anyway. You get a few scenes of Nina looking sorry for herself over in Seb's memorial garden. Abby sits down with her for a little bit, but nothing particularly happens there, apart from does she go and tell Roy? I can't remember. No, it's Bernie, but I think Bernie tells Roy that Nina's over in the garden looking a bit sorry for herself, so he goes and sees her. And she admits that she took drugs at the party and it really messed her up. And Roy, bless him, is like, oh, well, not really something I condone, but he doesn't berate her for it, at least. And this is when it comes out a little bit more about what happened. So she tells him she remembers there being a man who lunged at her. She pushed him away and then he fell over and his head cracked against the floor. So
maybe this was Gary asking for help.
I wonder what was Gary doing there? Because
he was supposed to be with Anna. Maybe he was coming home from Anna's house.
But Anna lives not nearby, does she?
No, I know, but he's coming back on the tram.
Yeah, so why did this assault happen away? If he was coming,
what do you mean away?
You know, this didn't happen near Coronation Street.
Or maybe he's just coming home from Anna. You don't know where.
It would make sense for him to get a tram, get off at the tram stop right up the road from his house.
Michael, it's a different line.
Oh, okay, that explains it then. So, yeah, I think that Gary clearly wasn't having a go at Lauren.
Well,
sorry, Nina.
If this is we're assuming this is Gary.
Oh, that would be a good double bluff, wouldn't it? If there was actually somebody else.
It is really fun to speculate, but we'll find out fairly soon, I would imagine, and through flashback form.
Well, I just don't understand, how can somebody so slight as Nina make Gary fall over and bash his head?
Okay,
you know? What was going on there?
Number one, if he has had a fight with Thingy and he was needed help and he was already in bad shape, that would be. Number two, the same way that Lauren can fall from standing up onto the floor and rupture her spleen, apparently.
Can you just...
It would be very weird, though, if two characters in the same episode were standing up and then fell down. One of them ended up in a coma and one of them ended up with a ruptured spleen. Do you not think?
Yeah, I'd have to have a look at the picture of Gary in hospital again and see what does he look like. I'm just trying to load it up now. And he doesn't look... Maybe he doesn't look in too bad a state.
Yeah, but he,
So if you were saying that maybe he was beaten up by Brody first, when he was supposedly lunging at Nina, he was actually just asking her for help?
He's got a sort of a gash on his side of his head.
Not as bad as the one that Craig got, though, was it?
And he's got a breathing thing in, and that's about it, really.
He looks a bit worse for wear. So yeah, I think maybe he was needing her help because he'd already attacked somebody, and that would make sense, because if Brody did attack him, Brody's going to find out about it and think I'm the reason that he's in hospital, and he's not wrong, but also Nina's going to think that she's the reason why he's in hospital, although she still doesn't realise that it's Gary. It seems like it's going to go down that route, doesn't it?
It won't be long until...
I don't think they're going to be holding out on this for very long anyway. No. Anyway, she's telling about the blood and about this guy not moving. She can't talk to the police about it though. But the next scene, she's actually there at the police station because she does want to confess. It's just the other teens have been trying to convince her not to. So she's saying to Kit, "Look, have you found a body?" And he's like, "Oh, I think we need to talk to you in the interview room." And he tells him about what happened.
I do love that Nina was the one who went to the police over summer, who's a goody two shoes, and I think it's really sweet that Nina's got a bit of Roy in her where she can't rest until she's doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I also, obviously there's that link with Seb, and she's thinking, I can't leave somebody like Seb was left.
Yes, because that's why Seb died, isn't it? Because they were both kicked, and then Kelly and the two boys and Corey ran off, and so she's desperate to
make right what went wrong those years ago.
Yeah. So she's telling Kit all about this, but he's like,
Kit's like, I'm not. Honestly, I can't.
There isn't any evidence that's what's happened, and this is why she's let go eventually, isn't it? Because all that we've got is her story that this happened.
She literally could have fallen asleep and had a dream about it.
Yeah, and she's told him all about the drugs. Although he's saying, well, Ardy says there wasn't any drugs, but that could kind of explain why she isn't completely got the best of memories about what happened there. But anyway, he decides that he's going to go and ask Summer some questions about this. Betsy, meanwhile, is with Lauren at the hospital, trying to piece together what happened to her at the party, but she can't really remember much about what happened. She doesn't remember taking this drink from the side, clearly. And Ardy, meanwhile, is still, like I said earlier, desperately trying to help her and ingratiate himself to her. But she ends up getting him to leave in the end, leaving Betsy with Lauren saying, oh, I didn't realise you and Ardy were that close. And Lauren's like, oh, we're not close like that. Do you think that there's any possibility that this could lead to a mini romance between Lauren and Ardy? Is he going to try and ingratiate himself to her so much that they end up having a bit of a kiss?
Oh, I don't know.
What were you going to say?
I don't know. I'm not...
I'm not in any way interested in a romance between Ardy and Lauren. Ardy and Amy, come on.
See, the reason why it makes me go, ugh, is because it will just be Amy deciding that she does like Ardy after all, and then walking in on Lauren and Ardy together, and then we have to have a month at least of them not being together, even though Coronation Street wants them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these stumbling blocks where you're like, ugh.
They're not suited,
Sort of a bit like
whatsoever.
Leanne hanging around Ronnie for a few scenes.
Yeah.
Literally to gain a few scenes.
That is really, isn't it? So Kit comes and grabs Summer for an interview. Billy's very concerned about what's going in, and he's furious when Ardy tells him what happened with the drugs. He's like, you have corrupted my daughter, for a laugh. He's really, really fuming about him because did they say about the drugs? Yeah. And Billy obviously knows that drugs are bad for both him and for anybody in his family, really. They're not good news. So
I don't know where he's got the leg to stand on people corrupting each other.
But Ardy says, well, what's because of Bernie's the one that told us to have the party. So he's fuming at her, which is obviously quite different because she's semi-family. And he has a bit of a rant at Bernie, then heads out to see Summer, who is taken out of the interview room when he gets there. And the Kit's basically saying, sorry, there's no evidence to corroborate your story here. You're a bunch of wasters, and off you go. And Nina's like, no, it had to be real. I definitely saw somebody. And then she has a bit of a voiceover, doesn't she, as the camera cuts to Gary in hospital. And there, at last, is the big reveal that was spoiled on Corrie's Instagram account the night before. Yeah, so...
Does Kit know more? I don't...
But if he... Again, another reason why it makes sense for it to be Brody, because if it turns out that it is him, Kit's probably going to find out about it and then use his powers of police corruption to try and cover it up. Yeah. Maybe pin it on Nina when actually Brody's the one that took the first swing of the bat.
But maybe he's already doing that.
Yeah, he could be already. I don't think he is. In my head, it feels like Kit doesn't know at the moment.
Because Kit knows... Kit's only investigating it because Lisa told him to.
Yeah.
It's totally within his character to not only investigate and chuck it all in the bin because it doesn't suit him, but also to completely poker face it, and you have no idea, like that, because the Coronation Street doesn't want you to know that he's involved, so he will not look suspicious. And it's within his character to be that evil.
I wonder what Brody would think about Kit if he realises that he's going to help cover up.
I think if Brody found out that Kit was covering for him because he's impulsive and self-destructive and he hates Kit so much, I think he'd use it to hang it over Kit's head and say, I can ruin your career now.
Yeah.
You put yourself out for me, stupid idiot. Now I've got something on you and I'm going to use it.
That's a very good point. Yeah, maybe. So I'm somewhat excited by this.
Well, I mean, I'm really intrigued. I find this very fascinating. I want to know what happens.
I want to find out more. I don't think it's going to be too long. I just could do without all the hospital and police. It's a shame that what started...
How can you investigate a drug spiking
I don't know how else they could have done it.
With a ruptured spleen.
I don't know how else they could have done it, but a storyline that started with this joyous party, this coming together of all the young bits on Coronation Street and just having a lovely good old time has now turned into yet another excuse for more trips to Weatherfield General and the police station. It's just a bit of a shame, really.
Well, I'm just glad that the Lauren and Frankie Memorial Wing is getting some more use out of Gary and Lauren.
Yeah, that's true. Right, there were other stories other than that this week, weren't there? Do you want to... but most of them will probably be able to rattle through quite quickly.
Most of them started on Wednesday.
Well, yeah, all of Monday's episode was dedicated to the party, wasn't it? It was such a banger of a party.
Maxine would have loved it. Right, on Wednesday, the Dementia storyline, Debbie.
Yes.
She tells Kevin, oh no, there's a whole missing bit because
she went missing on Friday's episode, didn't she? This is what I was kind of maybe insinuating a bit too much in last week's podcast, where I thought that I knew that it was going to be a event episode on Monday, and I thought, oh, is Debbie gonna... And I was really, really convinced, and I think I said it to our friend who came and watched it with us on Monday. I was like, I think somebody's gonna die tonight, and I thought, oh, is Debbie gonna be involved in it somehow?
Oh, Debbie's gonna kill somebody
or something. I don't know. Maybe I didn't know how it was gonna work, but I thought that Debbie's disappearance was going to lead to something huge, but actually it didn't really. It was a bit of a damp squib. Although the fact that she is missing in Coronation Street terms from Friday to Wednesday should feel like it was fairly big, but it wasn't really, was it?
No. Nobody cared. On Wednesday, Kev gets a call from Debbie and she says that I'm at a hotel in Cheshire. I just need some space and I'll call you when I'm ready to get picked up.
Oh, this was me being very clever and observant this scene, wasn't it? Because I said I recognised the bricks on the wall behind her.
Yeah, you did.
And I was like, I think that's police custody that she's in
Yeah,
there.
you did. No, she's not. That's not police custody. And it was.
And it was.
Yeah.
And we were wrong, I think, on the short, because we'd said it hadn't been made clear what she was doing being arrested, but some people online had said that they'd made some comment about her being drunk in the bakery or something.
I know, but we still don't actually know what happened.
I don't think we're going to tell.
I don't think we'll ever find out. But the insinuation is that it's some kind of, it's a symptom.
Yeah, that's what. When you get dementia, you go and cause a fuss in your local bakery.
It's not uncommon that somebody with a medical condition is assumed to be drunk and not helped, which is really sad.
But she's not so far gone that she wouldn't know what she was doing.
She fades out sometimes.
Yeah, she fades out, but that's not going to be enough to get you arrested.
So do you think that she was just like, when she got angry with Bernie the other day, do you think it was a similar situation to that?
I suppose it could have been, yeah.
Just
We have seen her get a bit ranty
and
as a symptom of her dementia.
She surely must be drunk because nobody gets this excited about a sausage roll. Which is not true.
They definitely do.
Exactly.
Greg's vegan sausage roll.
I love Greg's.
Queue around the block for those once upon a time.
Fight you for a vegan roll. Okay, so Kev is suffering with his post-chemo pain, and so Abby sends him upstairs and gets a phone call, and she's the one that goes to pick Debbie up. And Debbie's wearing these fantastic retro sunglasses, and I've looked these up. They're from Collective and they're no longer available, but they were very reasonably priced at the time. But yeah, she looks like she looks like a disgraced movie star.
Yes.
She picks her up from the police station and she's like, oh, I was just looking for my keys, I thought somebody might have handed them in, and Abby's like, come on, I don't think so. And she goes, yeah, okay, sorry, I have been in a cell,
been a bit naughty at the bakery,
so I mean,
or whatever.
They end up back at the bistro, and Debbie's saying, I can't believe this is how it's going to go for me. Like, I've got no memory like Swiss cheese. I want to be in control of myself, and when I lose it, it's scary and terrifying.
These were some really great scenes this week, weren't they, between Abby and Debbie? Those two actresses are both on fire at the moment with this story.
They were bloody-tastic together, because I love both of them.
It was they just have fun, and this is another instance of it being a horribly depressing and miserable story, but at the stage they are at the moment, they're still not making light of it, but there's still a bit of Corrie humour thrown in there.
Yeah, and Abby's like, oh, it's a long way away yet. And I really also appreciated the scene because it very often very tempting for the writers to have a character make this sort of beautiful, touching, absolutely pitch perfect speech to console somebody, and you're like, gosh, there's no point I couldn't do that.
Give her a BAFTA now.
No, what I'm saying is Abby didn't have a speech. She didn't have anything profound to say. She was just there, and she just said, "This sucks." And I found that really inspiring in a way, because when bad things happen to people you love, it can be really hard to know what to say. And a lot of the times, I really think we avoid difficult conversations and addressing things like this because we just don't have the language and we're not sure, and we think we're supposed to make these great big grand speeches and
because they do on telly.
But Abby literally does say nothing particularly earth-shattering at all at any point. She just hangs out with Debbie and is there for her all day.
Yeah, that's what Debbie needs at the moment, someone to go and have a swing with on the park.
And she doesn't really... She sort of addresses it when Debbie says it, but she doesn't kind of go, here's an inspiring...
No, and because...
haiku
because we can see that Debbie isn't interested, because she gets back home later after those park scenes, and Kevin's like, oh, we've got your support groups and everything. Kevin's like, I don't want that. I just want a bit of normality while I still can. I don't need treating like a 5-year-old at the moment. I'm still myself at the moment.
Honestly, support groups can be quite triggering for some people, because especially if you're at the beginning of something like this, you're going to see people at different stages.
Yeah.
And, like...
to know that is your, not just, possible future, but almost certain future at some point down the line.
If you think about... Yeah, sorry.
And Ronnie makes a point to her on Friday saying, look, there's still... it could be years away, but I imagine if you're given that diagnosis... a few years still seems like nothing, because she makes that speech on Friday saying what did she say? I was supposed to die of old age sitting in a bath filled with my tears of my enemies or something.
Rivals.
And yeah, that's it. And in a penthouse suite somewhere. So 2 years feels like it's going to go like this. It's like the summer holidays. You think 6 weeks stretching out ahead of me, that's ages, but then it's gone.
Who is the Claudia to Debbie?
What do you mean? Like
Audrey and Claudia are rivals.
Oh, so
and
you
Debbie
want a rival
wants to bathe in the tears of her rivals. Who is that? Who is Debbie's Claudia?
I think they should bring her in.
Me too. I think there's a lot of fun to be had with some kind of frenemy.
I think this story is still ripe for fun before the claws of dementia get properly hooked into Debbie and drag her down.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about also Paul when he went to his support group and he met up with...
Oh, yeah. What's her face? What was she called? I completely forgot, but she was great, wasn't she? We loved that character.
Yeah.
Her name's completely escaped me at the moment.
Yeah. Anyway, some people don't like support groups. It's not the what's the word? It's not like the blanket solution to every problem. So I totally empathise with her, because I don't like them either.
No.
So Friday,
Shelley was her name.
Dead Shelley.
Dead Shelley, yeah.
Friday.
Well, this is another trope, isn't it? If a character on Corrie meets a friend, then the friend will die before them.
If you go to a support group,
you'll meet somebody who's going to pass away.
The red shirt, to prove the situation is serious, will die. So you like Sinead's tea swilling alternative therapy friend.
Yeah, the kale smoothie friend
who died.
Yeah.
To red shirt it. Anyway, Friday. The Websters minus Debbie get to the cafe, like, oh, what should we do? And Kevin says, oh, she's not happy about the idea of the specialist. And then Carl's like, Ronnie, are you going to try and get back with her? And he says, yeah, I think I've got what it takes to stick with her when times get hard. And do you know what? Respect for Ronnie. I've never really thought one way or the other about him. He's not got a brilliant track record. He slept with his... Well, did he end up having an affair with... What's her face?
Oh, Aggie?
Yeah, did he? Or did they just think about it?
I think they did, but before they were on the show.
Yeah. No, there wasn't an affair on the show.
No.
He just seems like a bit of a...
He did it with Jenny while she was still married to Johnny, didn't she?
He seems like the sort of guy who's simplified his life because he doesn't like complicated relationships, you know?
But he
doesn't have kids.
He's not in any way villainized, is he? I know he's
No, he's not. He's just like a guy. He's just a guy.
Yeah. But I think we've been feeling sorry for him recently, and it would have been a massive surprise if he turned around and said, "What? She's got dementia. I'm out of here." That would not have sat right with me.
No, but it would have been realistic.
Some people would have said it, but it would have been very surprising if Ronnie
on his
soap,
that. I wouldn't expect anyone to do this, but in real life, you wouldn't see him for dust.
Probably. Well, he's been wronged, and he's been licking his wounds since she ceremoniously dumped him.
Do you think he's like, look, Debbie, the main thing here is that this dementia is, for me, actually a bit of an ego boost, because I thought you didn't like me. But I'm just relieved to know you've got a horrible mental condition that will eventually kill you.
I'm glad that they've got back together again this week, because in my head, it was clearly going to be something that was going to happen at some point. To be honest, I thought it might have happened before this week. It was a foregone conclusion that they're going to get back together. We're going to see a heck of a lot of Ronnie on our screens the next couple of years. And now we've got to that position.
Like I said, big props to Ronnie. He's shown himself to be a decent man, and I'm sure there will be very testing times ahead for him.
Yeah, I do wonder, like, are they going to lean any more into the Leanne thing?
I don't know, but I'm sorry, but I just cannot really envision any kind of the real human beautiful moments that Paul and Billy had. I just cannot see Ronnie and Debbie with that somehow.
I still will, I still think that I'm not in the slightest bit invested in them as a couple. Yeah, that's what I mean. I know that they're a couple because I've been told that they've been a couple for the past few years, but we've seen so little of them. And I know at the beginning of the MND story, Billy and Paul weren't a couple, were they? They had been before, but they weren't at the beginning. So now Corrie really, really needs to double down on making us care for these two. Because I still really struggle to, despite loving Debbie and wanting Debbie to have somebody who's good for her. And I don't mind Ronnie. So it should be fairly easy, but they've still got a bit of work that they need to do to make me care.
The flip side of this is I don't really need any more of those scenes. I've seen it. Paul and Billy did it. I don't really want a carer story again.
Well, Debbie says on Friday that she doesn't want a carer, doesn't she?
There's no new ground that they can cover.
It doesn't feel like there is.
Maybe Raphael can be a carer.
I mean, in some ways, it's like
I want to bring him back no matter what.
Sure. In some ways, it's like the opposite of the MND, isn't it? Because Billy was still looking after Paul when his mind was still there, but his body was withering away. And then it's the total opposite with Debbie, whereas her mind's going to be going, but still physically, I guess, she's still going to be retain some level of fitness. And there's not going to be exactly the same.
It will deteriorate.
Yeah, it will do.
Anyway.
But yeah, it feels like they are trying to get that same feeling, and
we don't need it.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't need it, but if they're going to do it, they need to make me care for them as a couple more first.
I'm sure they could. I'm sure the actors could do it. I just don't really see the point of it after we've just had the same story.
I said, but both Billy and Paul were both quite, especially Billy, I suppose, the romantic sort, and I don't see Debbie or Ronnie.
They're not sentimental.
Ronnie is a kind of a charmer, I suppose.
He's a ladies' man.
He's a ladies' man schmoozer sort of person, and Debbie is very kind of practical. I almost think that she's not got time for any of that lovey-dovey stuff.
Interesting. How are they going to cope?
Yeah.
Anyway,
what else?
So Ronnie buys a bottle of expensive champagne, and they make such a big deal about this.
Oh yeah, Dev's posh bottle.
They go on about this for quite a lot of time, which made in my head, I imagine that there was a sponsorship that fell through. No, I don't think so. It was just funny because they did ham this champagne up quite a lot. And when he brings it
I
to
want
her...
Dev to finally come back from India and go, hey, somebody bought my champagne.
Hey, Andy, you did it. Yes, I knew you could sew a bottle.
I loved it when Ronnie bought the bottle, and then I can't remember what the context was, but Ronnie says, oh, do I need this after all? And Ardy jumps in and says, no refunds.
Yeah, no refunds. Right, so he buys this champagne and takes it to Debbie, and honestly, this is a bit like bringing Colston and Newcastle in it, because she's there behind the bar trying to sort out a delivery of wines. She's not like she needs expensive champagne, but
Well, she doesn't. She isn't too impressed with it at
she's
first.
like,
But when
"Oh."
she takes it out of the bag, she's like, "I'll go on then."
well, she says, "Oh, what is this? Sorry, you've got dementia. I got you a bottle of bubbly Crescent." She's trying to keep him at arm's distance, isn't she? Because they're still
not ready to let him in.
No,
she doesn't want to.
And she says that I'll take your bottle if you help me with this wine, because she's had this big delivery and nobody else is there. So they start putting stuff away, and he's like, "Look, I'm here to tell you I love you no matter what happens." And she says, "Well, it doesn't. There's only one way it is going to happen." And he says, "I know this. I'm 100% sure I want to stick by you. I'm all in." And she says, "That's why I can't take you back." Oh gosh, this really got to me, this scene.
I still maintain that this is just a business deal by Mr. Business Ronnie Bailey here, and if he marries her and gets her hotel chain, that's quite an investment, I would say.
Okay, you're very cynical, mister.
No, don't really think that. But
now she's like,
he probably wouldn't turn it down if it came his way.
"Oh, what I didn't know I would be in the will. Oh, that's surprising." Right, so she says, I don't want you to be my carer. I'm going to pay a professional when the time comes for that. I don't want anyone I love doing it." And he goes, you admit you love me." And she says, "Oh, I do, but I won't even know who you are at some point." Oh, it's so sad. This is so tragic.
Who do you think that Debbie who would she leave things to? Because she's
Jack.
clearly minted. Do you think Jack or
The children?
Rosie? I think it feels like Jack, Rosie, and Sophie should get it. Like, Kevin doesn't need it, does he?
Kevin's still got his scratch card winnings, as far as I know.
He's got a business. I think that, yeah. I think I'd say Rosie, Sophie, and Jack.
I selfishly am going to make a mausoleum with my dead money.
Imagine a mausoleum for Debbie. Think how fabulous that would be.
Oh my god! It would have a disco ball in the middle of it. That would be brilliant.
Marble everywhere in the interior.
She's like, "What? Right, stonemason. What can you do in leopard print? Can you carve leopard print?"
Do you think she'd want a massive one built as well, just to make up
Yes.
for her inferiority complex on being a little on the short
she's not
side?
inferior. She doesn't need to be tall.
No, she doesn't
Imagine
care,
how
does she?
scary she'd be.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
What?
I'm talking about the plot. Do you remember?
Yes.
So he's trying to convince her to take him back, and he says it's meant to be, and she says, "Yeah, I know what it was meant to be. I was meant to live a long and adventurous life and die in a bathtub filled with the tears of my rivals in a penthouse. And it doesn't go the way it's supposed to, does it, life?" And he says, "The people who love you won't let you go through this alone, and you're everything to me, and I'm not going to leave you." And then this is when she breaks down and starts crying.
Oh, that was nice.
Saying, "I'm scared all
nice.
the
That was a
time."
good old performance from
And
Sue.
he says, "If I can't help, let me be scared with you." Oh my God.
Yeah.
And
that
then
was nice,
they
nice
kind
little
of
scene there.
they decide they're back together at this point.
Yes. Yeah, they go to the pub, don't they?
Yes.
They said they're going to go and have a dinner at the bistro with Rod, Jane, and Freddie. And I
didn't get it.
Do you know who Rod, Jane, and Freddie are?
Who are they?
They're the humans off of Rainbow. You know Rainbow?
I know what Rainbow is. Zippy,
I think
George, and
Zippy, George, and Bungle.
right.
And then Jeffrey was the main human, wasn't he? This is a kids' TV show back in the 80s that I used to watch. I think it even started in the 70s, maybe. And Rod, Jane, and Freddie, I seem to remember, were these side characters that were kind of hippie-ish, a dance troupe or something.
I
And
thought you
occasionally
meant they were the performers who played those.
No. They were characters in Rainbow. I can't remember much about what they did.
Because
I watched Rainbow. Rod, Jane, and Freddie.
I
I feel like summer and nobody knows what.
I never watched
What's after the
Rainbow.
summer wine
I mean,
was.
I've seen clips. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Rainbow.
I think they were the side characters in
So
Rainbow.
the insinuation is that Ronnie and Debbie are the main characters. So
Yeah.
who do you think is Bungle out of Debbie and Ronnie? Who do you think she thinks of herself? I think she thinks she's Zippy.
No.
Zippy's fashionable. He's got a zip.
Yeah, but he is quite loud and obnoxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who are there's a big bear,
Big bear, that's Bungle, a man in a
Bungle.
bear suit.
and then there's a stupid
I think
hippo.
that's Ronnie. I think Bungle is Ronnie.
Yeah, 'cause he's
I
big
don't know
beaver.
who George is, the camp hippo. I think Raphael is George.
Yeah. No, Bungle. What shall we do?
There's probably, I'm going to say, about 90% of the people listening to this at the moment
All of
don't
the
get
voice.
the reference.
So did
that's
the
fine.
bear never speak,
No,
right?
the bear did speak.
Oh, okay.
There was a
But
man
Bungle and
inside
George
him.
had similar voices, didn't they? Kind of.
Yeah. I don't know.
You know what a weird thing is that what's the hippo called?
George.
George always, and this is really out of left field, reminded me of Emily Bishop.
What?
I don't know why. I don't think that's a universal thing.
I was obsessed with Rainbow when I was little. I definitely had a zippy cake at least once as my childhood that my mum made.
Nice.
Yeah. It was good.
Did your mum ever make you a pob cake? Because you like pob,
No,
didn't you?
I don't think I had a pob cake.
You could make a pob cake that squirted.
Look, let's stop doing these very deep cut 1980s Channel 4 kids references.
I didn't even hear what she said, let alone understand.
Well, there you go. That's who Rod, Jane and Freddie are. Moving on.
So Jane is obviously Debbie.
No! Rod, Jane and Freddie the son.
No, sorry, I meant Abby.
Jane is Abby, yes.
One of them had a goofy haircut and dungarees, right? One of the blokes.
I think they all probably had dungarees.
I think I can picture at least one of the men who looked like Chucky but a grown man.
Right, I'm going to find a picture of them while you carry on saying
right, anyway, so they go to see Rod, Jane and Freddie do Bungalin.
Here's Rod, Jane and Freddie. Look, sorry listeners, you can't see, but they are
they could literally be anybody.
They could be anyone in the 70s because they all got mullets.
They look like ABBA to me. Right, so at the bistro, Debbie proposes a toast to the Websters and says, I don't want you to treat me any differently. Let's just enjoy what we're up to the Websters. And then Carl and Abby go, let's ruin it by looking at each other.
Just die this story.
And then Kevin says,
just get on with it. For heaven's bloody sake, just get on with it.
Kevin's like, let's do a toast to Abby, my wife, who's
my very loyal
would
and
never do
wife.
Anything to upset anybody because she's an angel.
Gosh.
She's an angel with a bob.
This is the longest running build-up to an affair I've ever had the misfortune to be dragged through in Coronation Street. Just get on with it, you two.
So Abby goes up to the bar and then Carl comes up and goes, Debbie says that you think I'm amazing. Oh. And then at the end of the evening, Carl's like, don't leave me, I'm bored. And that sounded like one of them, didn't it? And then Abby and Kevin's like, look, I've got cancer, I'm going home, I'm tired. And Abby's like, sorry, we've got to go. And then they leave, and then Carl texts her and it says, how do I get to know you better?
Yeah, that was a reference to something or other she'd said at the bar earlier, wasn't it?
Oh, what a dirty sod.
Sake. Next week? Is next week going to be the week that this happens?
Are they going to fake us out and just never do it? Because
I wouldn't be mad if they did, but they'd need to explicitly state. You can publish that on your Instagram page and spoil that whenever you like. If Coronation Street puts on a post saying, just to let you know, Carl and Abby are not going to get together.
You can all relax.
Yeah, that's the kind of spoiler that I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's sexual harassment, isn't it? This is what I mean when I say like toxic, problematic, whatever you want to say. I don't know that you can do this sort of storyline in a soap anymore without being grubby. Like, is it romantic? No, not really.
It's not.
Is it sending out a good message? No.
It doesn't feel like kind of sexy and illicit and all exciting. It just feels like they're dragging Abby through the mud. And Abby has been, but she's not at the moment, one of my favourite characters. And I know that she's been flawed in many ways, but I think that, having it off with Kevin's brother while he's there getting his chemo, that's hard to come back from.
The scene where they're about to kiss and then in the house and then Abby gets that call from the hospital, I will say there was charisma on that screen there. There was sexual tension like I've never seen really in a and I don't like.
I would say there's probably more there than there was between Abby and Kevin
in their entire relationship.
At the end of the day,
she's made her choice, and that's the end.
She's
of it.
made a marital bed, and she'll bonk in it. So, but not with Carl.
Not with Carl.
Oh.
But yeah, he's in sex pest territory at this point.
I think that just get Carl and Theo together, and they can bugger off somewhere.
Go off together and be problematic with each other.
Right. Steve and Cassie's storyline. There wasn't a whole lot that happened this week, but they just reminded us that they've been secretly having it off for the past couple of months.
If only Abby and Carl could do that.
Yeah. Just get on with it.
That would be fine. Just don't tell me about it.
And then split up.
Yeah.
Although it did seem that this week we had Cassie and Steve pretty much committing to each other. Although Tracy isn't happy. Tracy seemed bizarrely out of character in this week's episode because it was Steve's birthday, isn't it? It's his 51st birthday, and Tracy seems to think that Steve's going to be celebrating it on his own because he says that he is, because he's actually secretly going to be with Cassie, but she doesn't want Tracy to know about it. And Tracy, for some reason, is like, oh, poor Steve, he's going to be on his own for his birthday. That's not right. I'm going to go and off to buy him a drink. Did you find that was very un-Tracy-ish?
No.
She's still got some lingering feelings for him?
She's not a complete monster.
She should be.
What do you mean she should be? She's got... What's the point of a character who's just horrible all the time? I like Tracy. I think Tracy.
I like Tracy. I just thought that was an odd thing for her to do.
I think it was good. I think it showed that. I think it was important for her character because it showed her. Look, here I am, the great Tracy Barlow, being magnanimous to my deadbeat loser of a soon-to-be ex-husband by graciously, being nice to him on his birthday, even though we're getting a divorce, and I'm being very fair and everything in this divorce too. And then this skank rocks up, and it turns out he's been shagging her after she tried to kill my dad. I don't think so. I think it was another layer of Tracy's perceived betrayal.
It would have worked better for me if Amy had been the one that had assumed that her dad would be alone on his birthday and had said, come on mum, can we just do something nice for him? And Tracy would have been like, oh, go on then.
Right.
But anyway, she's serving papers with she gets the divorce papers from Steve, doesn't she, on Wednesday, and this is kind of part of a bubbling along story for the next couple of days. But yeah, she says she's gonna organise something for his birthday on The Secret. So Cassie, meanwhile, is with Steve in number 1, blowing out some birthday candles, and it sounds like they got an evening of rumpy pumpy plan together. And Steve says, "Look, I'm fed up of this, just keeping it under our hats. Let's go official. Let's go out in the open." But then he gets this text from Tracy saying, come along to the Rovers, so he has to drag himself over there. He thinks it's something to do with the divorce papers, but actually it's her excuse to give him a birthday card and offer him to buy a drink. So he's kind of trapped there at the Rovers with Cassie left at home. I
think it's very Tracy of her to think that Steve really cares that much about her and would be that fascinated and delighted by such a low effort surprise party, which is her giving him a card.
Maybe.
Do you not think this is totally Tracy? Okay. She doesn't even plan a party or anything. She doesn't give him a cake.
Time.
She just goes, I know what, I'll lure him to the pub. Men like beer.
I don't know. It felt out of character for me. But anyway, what it culminates is him going back to Cassie, Tracy following him, and then her, Steve, Cassie and Amy all there in the lounge together with it all out in the open about, yes, we've been seeing each other for ages. And Amy and Tracy's reaction were both great to this. They were grimacing, weren't they, at the thought of these two together. Well, Amy, I can't remember whether it was this week where she said, so Amy's like, well, can't I just have normal parents? Or she certainly has to go through a lot. She suffers, doesn't she? Poor thing. That's why she needs to hook up with Ardy so that he can whisk her away somewhere. So she doesn't have to be embarrassed by her parents all the time.
So she can suffer in a different way.
No. So Friday comes along and Steve approaches Cassie in the pub, kisses her, making a very public show that they are together, and he doesn't care who knows it. Cassie's chuffed by this. And again, I do feel a bit sorry for the many viewers who don't like Cassie and who think that she's absolute deplorable human being for nearly poisoning Ken.
No one cares about that anymore.
It feels like nobody on the street cares about her anymore, apart from maybe Tracy. But I've forgiven her because I like Cassie. So I'm pleased that they're out in the open. I think that they're suited each other really well. But Tracy gets her nose right put out of joint by this. So basically, as the episode goes on, she decides that she's gonna take her revenge on. Is it revenge? I don't know. She's just gonna make it.
Life difficult.
Yeah.
Why should that skank get all Steve's riches?
Yeah. So
I think it's partly jealousy too, because she didn't even think Steve had any prospects. But now there's going to be somebody who might possibly be the next Mrs. McDonald.
Well, she doesn't want to see him happy when she's still probably licking her wounds after Tommy Orpington left earlier this year.
I think you could have stopped before you even got halfway through that sentence.
So she decides that she's going to up the stakes and ask for half of Steve's share of streetcars in the divorce settlement. And to be honest, why didn't she ask for that anyway? She's very much entitled to this.
This is how I'm sorry to say this, but this is not me that's made this a reality. I'd say the vast majority of women on the street who own a business only have it because their husband had it first.
Although, can Steve...
I think Debbie's the only made woman on the show.
Yeah, I think you're right. Can Steve say, well, I want half of Preston's petals?
Yeah, how about that?
Maybe they're just going to end up in a bit of a bidding war with that, and then they'll end up running out of steam.
Is this going to be a really horrible, drawn-out, nasty story?
It doesn't feel like they're the types
like...
of characters. This feels like comedy divorce.
I like comedy divorce.
Considering who's involved.
It reminds me of the 80s.
Why?
Because everyone had a story. There were all the films... Every film I feel like I watched as a child in the 80s began with somebody getting divorced.
Anyway, Tracy just is there to be a thorn in Steve's side, and when she overhears Cassie bad mouthing her in the pub later, she says, "Well, oh no, it was Steve, wasn't it, that did it?" And she says, "Well, I hope you can use more professional language to talk about me when we're business partners." So yeah, she's just making a bit of trouble for herself. It was very, considering compared to everything else that went on in Corrie this week, this was like the lowest,
stakes.
very very low stakes.
I think it will be quite fun to have Cassie involved in trying to get Preston's off of Tracy.
Yeah.
And I can also really imagine a scene where Cassie marches into the florists when it's just Mary by herself, and she's like, "No, Mary, my boyfriend co-owns this place now, so you better move over because we're going to make some bouquets." And Mary's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do about this. Oh my god." Did
you like Tracy's terrariums?
Yeah.
Are you a terrarium?
No.
Fancier? No.
No. They just attract flies and look like sad little piles of moss.
Oh well. Cross
Just
that off
have
your
a
birthday
houseplant.
list then. But you like succulents, don't they? They're little mini plants. I wondered whether you liked a terrarium.
I've got a certain tolerance for succulents, but they are just plants for people that are scared of commitment, aren't they?
Right, finally we got the Todd and Theo storyline. Gemma, I have left you your favourite couple.
Todd desperately on Friday trying to bond with Millie over Steve and King.
I don't think we've seen this story since we saw Millie buying the pregnancy bump, did we?
No.
I mean, that was only a week away.
Yeah.
But we go into this story now knowing that she's not up the duff as she claims.
No.
But she's still very much trying to get in between her dad and his new boyfriend.
Yes. So Todd gets some leaflets off of James about personal training, and Millie's like, interesting.
Well, there has been a clear spark between Todd and James that I've been thinking, no, please don't go there. But it looks like Millie has also seen this and is now going to be using this to her advantage. Yeah.
So Todd brings, because he saw Millie reading a Stephen King book, so he brings her another one, and she says, "Oh, I don't need to say thank you because I've already bought you your first training session with James to say sorry for being such an absolute cow." And he's like, "Oh, great." And she says, "Yeah, it's 20 minutes, so you better get changed."
Yeah. Why does Todd want a training session? Does he feel inadequate in the bedroom when he's lying there next to Theo with no clothes on?
He is very chiseled, isn't he, Theo? I don't imagine Todd's much for the
No, I think
gym.
I was going to say Todd's got a normal proportioned body.
Oh, Todd's very slim, and I'm sure it's.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, Gareth Peirce is quite slim, isn't he? But I don't imagine he's.
Todd strikes me as more of a cardio boy than a weights.
Yeah.
Kind of a person.
Yeah.
He's like a little ferret running around, quick. I don't think Theo could do anything quickly. Certainly not think.
I do think that probably Theo could give Todd a fairly good workout.
I think Theo could pick Todd up and use him as dumbbells, which is ironic.
Whatever Theo's done to get that bod, I'm sure he could tell Todd about it.
Sold his soul, apparently, according to Noah. Okay, so Todd's like, "Yeah, that was great," and Theo is honestly such an arse about this, and I think that the actor played it pretty well because he didn't come straight out and be like, "Oh, I don't like this," but he was certainly not happy.
No, was this the scene where he kind of approaches Todd in a slightly threatening manner? And Todd's like, "Stay away from me, I'm sweaty."
Yes.
But
there was
for those of us who are thinking, is this going to go down some kind of domestic abuse angle? That little moment there could have been a bit of a breadcrumb. This
whole thing is very weird because no matter what happens at the end of the day, Millie and Danielle are kind of still, and the boy, are still stuck with this guy, Theo. So if it does turn out that he is an abuser, it's not like, oh, happy ending because this horrible guy can bugger off back where he came from and our lovely Todd is free of this boring hunk of wood. No, because Theo's going to go back to his family and presumably abuse them as he has been.
It depends. It depends how it all comes out. If indeed the story is going down this route.
They're such a weird little family, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Very interesting. I do think this is a lot more interesting than it could have been. Don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
I just don't know why they chucked in all the extraneous nonsense about Theo's sad and tragic life.
Yeah.
Could he just be an
like
arsehole?
I said, I need to be told that he is a baddie.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so he's kind of a bit. He's like, oh, what? It's going to affect the amount of time you spend with me and Millie as a family. What? Where's your son?
I know.
Where's your son? You did have one. You remember that, don't you?
Just because we've forgotten his name, but we're not related to him.
I'm sure you remember his name, Theo. It's probably
No,
Theo
he's forgotten he
Jr.
exists.
Right, so Todd's like, no, okay, it'll be fine. But Theo looks really jealous.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get quite possessive and clingy here. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he punches James at some point.
Yeah.
Or they get.
He's already attacked Todd.
I quite like to see Todd, like James, get one over and punch him back.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he can hold his own.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. Right.
He's quite good at kicking. Maybe he just needs to aim between Theo's legs.
This James definitely feels a lot more like he could plausibly be related to Ronnie than the old James.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I could take old James. Right, so Millie makes a mistake of sitting in Victoria Gardens with Betsy and trying to make friends with her through alcohol. And Todd notices this, and before he notices this, he sees James and he says, "Sorry, James, I can't do any more sessions with you because it's a bit too expensive, and maybe in a few months I'll be able to do it." And James looks really genuinely disappointed about this,
well,
and I wonder
a
if there's
payment plan or something, doesn't he?
more to it than just needing money.
Oh, so you think he quite enjoyed seeing Todd getting hot and sweaty
Maybe.
under his tutelage?
Maybe. So Todd then sees Millie with a can of lager. I didn't even think about this. But
No, I didn't either because I knew that she wasn't pregnant.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, he's going to realise.
I wonder if it would have been if it would have been better to have not revealed that she was faking it before we saw her drinking.
I still don't know whether I'd have noticed, to be honest.
Well, he notices, brings her back home, and says, I can't believe you do this when you're pregnant. And she's like, don't tell my dad. And then Theo comes in, and Todd indeed does not tell.
No, well, he wants to keep Millie on his side, doesn't he?
When will he learn?
Well, that was kind of fun, I suppose. But
I thought, again, I enjoyed talking about it. I thought that I really enjoyed the party stuff. I love Debbie. Yeah, I thought this was on the whole.
It was fine. It just
honestly,
went downhill.
Sadly, the thing that was the bit of the boring nonsense for me was everything with Kit and Brody, and then the investigation of the party, which was like, oh
yeah. Okay, it's like, I suppose it had to.
And Lauren in hospital again.
Yeah. That I wasn't into at all. But I hope that we're into a bit of a renaissance for Ardy, and we'll get to see more of him in the next few weeks. And I hope he gets away with it anyway.
This was a pretty good week, really.
It was okay. My interest waned as the week went on. I think probably I'm still going to end up saying 3.5 unscripted trips up the underworld steps out of 5 for this one. It could have been a lot higher, but it just lost it a little bit for me. Ardy for 100% character of the week.
Yes, Ardy is my character.
Without a doubt. I don't even know. Not a second thought there.
See, I'm stuck between 3.5 and 4. I don't think it was a 4. It doesn't feel like a 3.5 though.
I know, but you got to stick with harsh. No 3.75. Thank you very much. No.
I'll give it 3.5 tiny botanical terrariums then.
Fine.
But Mondays was like a 4.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I'm sorry to everyone who hated it.
Yeah, a lot of people hated it. That's absolutely fine.
But I will say that genuinely, if somebody liked something that I just thought was a bit rubbish, I'd just be happy for them. Sometimes I will think you're a bit insane. But on the whole,
people know that about us anyway.
I think on the whole, I'm just happy that you're mad in a positive way.
Right, that is it for this week's Street Talk.